Chapter 41. Genius Remembers Love in 1 Second/Small? This is a wonderful novel for you to read. In the hospital, Jiang Chu was sitting silently in his office with a lot on his mind. At the same time, there was another woman in the office. She was his ex-wife. "Jiang Chu, tell me honestly, what's wrong with the child?" Jiang Chu said dejectedly. "His body is rejecting the transplant." The woman's face darkened. "Rejecting? How could it be? You said you found a bone marrow match, so I agreed to the operation. Now you're telling me there's rejection?" Jiang Chu said impatiently. "Do you know how hard it is to find a bone marrow match for your son? I've tried my best to find a suitable one, but I failed in the end." "Then what should we do? If it's rejecting, shouldn't we be able to control it?" Jiang Chu shook his head. "I can't answer this question. Now we can only see the degree of rejection. We have to wait for the detailed test report to know the details. But, no matter what, I won't let anything happen to the child. You go and take care of the child, I want to be alone." After his ex-wife left, Jiang Chu leaned on the chair, staring at the ceiling blankly. Why is it like this? Why? Not only did he diagnose the early stage of platinum syndrome, but his son's life was also in danger. Jiang Chu closed his eyes in pain. At this moment, he seemed to see the eager eyes of the little girl waiting for him to perform the operation, and the face of the child lying on the sickbed, being tortured. The two were intertwined like a whirlpool that couldn't be pulled out. Jiang Chu felt as if he had fallen into a bottomless abyss. He opened his eyes abruptly, his head full of cold sweat. Only then did he realize he had fallen asleep due to exhaustion. First, he complained about the malice of the guy who invented the mobile phone GPS. Luoqiu sent his location to Ren Xiling's phone. It probably wouldn't take long for her to quietly appear nearby, right? The so-called working place. Generally speaking, it was normal for college students to work part-time to experience life. Ren Xiling wouldn't object, but because of her overflowing motherly love, she was worried about where Luoqiu was working, whether it was a proper place or not. Therefore, in order to avoid the trouble of returning home late in the future, Luoqiu decided to work properly for one night. The choice of location had to be carefully considered. Basically, the locked-on areas were places that Ren Xiling didn't go often or even wouldn't go at all. Moreover, after one observation, she would feel that there was no problem and wouldn't come back in the future. What's more, it was a job that college students often did and were easier to find. "Teacher, is this appropriate?" "Let me see, that's right." Luoqiu didn't need to face too many people, and it was a job that suited his personality. Lastly, he didn't need too many extras. Tutoring. It was a very simple matter. Asking Yu Yi to use hypnotism to find a mother and son who were strolling around? Father and daughter? Mother and daughter. Anything would do. As long as they looked to be at the age where they needed a tutor and could afford a tutor, it would be fine. But I don't know if Yu Yi was more inclined towards beautiful things. Luoqiu was tutoring a female high school student. A first-year high school student. Was it because she had developed too well? High school students nowadays. As for the parent of the student that Luoqiu was tutoring, she looked like a well-educated and well-mannered woman. Did she take care of herself too well? A beautiful witch? But thinking that the other party was doing this show for him without knowing, and didn't even get a salary, Luoqiu thought that at least he should properly teach this high school girl. Although he didn't know if this kind of one-off tutoring would be helpful, at least he could help her solve a few problems during tutoring. He chose to teach at a relatively quiet Western restaurant near the business street, and then the location was near the floor-to-ceiling glass window. He's really tutoring. Ren Xiling was eating hamburgers on the side of the road and drinking pitifully. She stood like this for more than 10 minutes. Although she was happy to see Luoqiu choose to work after school to experience life, but did this girl develop too well? And why does her mother take care of herself so well? A beautiful witch? A carnivorous witch who specializes in eating young men? Deputy Editor Ren had a brain that was good at thinking, and she had a montage of thoughts. She took a sip of Coke and couldn't stop the imagination in her mind. Could it be a mother and daughter thing? As if she saw the scene of Luocio with a young and cute daughter on his left and a beautiful and generous mother on his right, Ren Xiling felt terrible. She absolutely couldn't let this happen. Deputy Editor Ren threw the unfinished hamburgers and Coke directly into the trash can and rushed into the Western restaurant. Luocio probably didn't expect Ren Xiling to rush in directly. He was stunned and couldn't say a word. Who is this? The girl's mother looked at the woman who suddenly appeared and looked at Luocio in confusion. When Luocio was about to speak, Ren Xiling smiled and said, "Hello. I'm Luocio's sister, you can call me Xiling. I just got off work and heard from my brother that he's tutoring here, so I came to pick him up. Am I disturbing you?" "It's okay." The girl's mother smiled gracefully and took out a packet of tissue from her bag, took out a piece and gave it to Ren Xiling. Ren Xiling was stunned. Luocio had to point at his mouth unhappily. Ren Xiling subconsciously touched her mouth. Oh my God! She didn't notice the sauce on her face when she was eating the hamburger. No wonder when she came in, the waiter at the door looked at her with a weird expression. Thank you." Ren Xiling smiled embarrassedly and reached out to wipe the sauce on her face. Let's call it a day, it's almost time." The girl's mother smiled and stood up. "Teacher Luo, I'll have to trouble you next time." "There shouldn't be a next time." But Luocio still nodded. The girl's mother said, "Then I won't disturb you too. Ping Ting, say goodbye to them." The girl's name was Ping Ting. Luocio sat down directly. Only now did he know the girl's name. "Goodbye, teacher, goodbye, big sister." The girl said goodbye very politely. Watching the beautiful mother and daughter leave, Luocio heaved a sigh of relief and complained, "I thought you would just take a look from the outside at most." "And what the hell is big sister?" Ren Xiling said with grievance, "I'm doing this for you. If your mother is so young and beautiful, what will other people think of you?" Luocio sighed and said, "It's good to be confident, but can you wipe your mouth before eating next time? And can you not add mayonnaise when you eat hamburger next time?" Ren Xiling opened her eyes wide and said, "Look at you, what are you talking about? Dirty." Luocio decided to skip this rather delicate topic. "Are you full?" "Not bad." Ren Xiling touched her belly and said. Luocio shook his head and called the waiter. He ordered a seafood pasta and a fruit salad for Ren Xiling and said indifferently, "It's too late, eat something light." Ren Xiling kissed Luocio's face without thinking and said, "Good boy. You're my mother." Luocio wiped his face and moved to the end of the soft card seat. He leaned against the window and took out the book, The Origin of Blue and White Porcelain, and started to read without saying anything. Looking at Luocio's appearance, it was still the same as before. Ren Xiling felt that her previous worries were unnecessary. She began to enjoy the food that was served. An unusually beautiful girl, who looked like a model, quietly walked past the mother and daughter. Perhaps it was really because she was too beautiful. The mother and daughter could not help but look at her twice at the same time. When the night wind blew, the girl's mother suddenly shivered and said absent-mindedly, "Strange, where is this?" Ji Pingting also looked at her mother in confusion. At this time, a black card quietly glided in the night sky and finally slipped into Ji Pingting's mother's handbag without anyone noticing. "Let's go back." "Okay." Yen PS1. Popular Science. Jing Jing the third sound, Gu Tong Jing. PS2. It's the standard little tale that likes to be recommended and rewarded equals. Chapter 42. Genius 1 second. Remember love/go/little? We provide you with wonderful novels to read. After sacrificing the lifespan he got from the psychic master, Luocio gained 200 days of lifespan. After deducting the sporadic usage, Luocio found that he could live for another year from 30 days at the beginning. With the increase of the number of transactions and the frequency of sacrifice, this number would only increase. The Black Soul envoys didn't need to learn much. One was how to make information cards, and the other was how to bewitch potential customers. It was unknown whether Taiyinzi was a Taoist or not, but he showed excellent progress in learning these skills. In less than 2 days, Taiyinzi went out as an intern to bring customers to the club. "Master, it's the 3rd day, but Jiang Chu doesn't seem to want to come." Yu Yi brought 2 sandwiches and a glass of orange juice to Luo Qiu for lunch, and talked about this matter casually. Luo Qiu leisurely picked up the sandwich, but his eyes didn't leave the book he was reading. He didn't care too much about it, probably because he thought there might be a chance. His son won't be able to hold on for long. "Last night, I gave that woman a black card with no discount," Yu Yi suddenly said while wiping on the counter casually. Luo Qiu gave a start, saying after a moment of silence, "So be it. But next time, Prophet will inform me and wait for my permission." Yu Yi understands. The maid's occasional wiping became lighter, and a smile appeared on her face. Luo Qiu noticed these details, his eyes falling on a line of words on a page of The Origin of the Blue and White Flower. How should he explain it? From Yu Ye's point of view, there was nothing wrong with it. The purpose of the club's existence was to trade and sacrifice, so it was understandable that she would look for suitable candidates. On the other hand, it was probably because the former boss was too lazy and passive. After changing to a new boss, this 300-years-old employee hoped to make some changes. Of course, it was also possible that she wanted to get more transaction fees for the club's owner, or to prevent Luo Qiu from dying. But it was also possible that Yu Yi had some mechanism that she didn't realize. Luo Qiu didn't completely trust this old employee from the beginning. Maybe it was because it would take a long time? That was the way people interacted with each other. On the other hand, the club itself was extremely important to the boss, and had an unimaginable temptation. By continuously trading, one would be able to enjoy an endless life. As the number of trades increased, one would obtain even more unimaginable abilities. It sounded very attractive and also very motivating, right? He really wanted to plunge headfirst into this place so that his lifespan would be limitless, so that he would possess greater strength, right? And then, he would be addicted to countless transactions. Even if he had hundreds of years, even thousands of years, or even more, so what? He would only want to get more, and for this, he would constantly repeat the boring transactions. Only when the transactions were successful would there be ripples in his heart, and only then could he bring himself a little satisfaction. What was the difference between such a situation and Zhong Luochen, who was deprived of happiness? Or would he only know how to bring endless sacrifices to the club? Or would he become like the former boss, because he couldn't stand the loneliness or saw through it, and became like a walking corpse? Thinking about this, Luo Qiu suddenly understood that the investor needed to resist his own desires and desires. As for him, the only thing he needed to do as the club's owner was not to think about how to make his life unlimited, but how to maintain himself every time he improved. Giving you an unlimited lifespan, giving you earth-shattering abilities, but you don't even know who you are and have lost your nature. In the end, I'm afraid I'm the biggest and most special financier behind the club, right? Originally, if he wasn't as passive as the former boss, and let nature take its course, his life would gradually accumulate. For example, now, it should have been less than 10 days, but from the original 30 days, it had become a year. Yu Yi, we're not open today, accompany me for a walk. Luo Qiu suddenly closed the book in his hand, looked at Yu Yi with a surprised expression, and said with a smile, "If someone comes, we'll know, and it'll be convenient to ask them to come back. But it's a waste of time, so it's not bad to walk outside for a change." "But, where are we going?" Yu Yi asked puzzledly. Luo Qiu smiled and said, "Do you still remember the first time I made a deal? I was the one who made the decision personally. How about we go to the hospital?" Yu Yi said without thinking, That's because before the first deal, the owner didn't have the ability to buy the investor's information. But now it's different, there's no need for that kind of trivial thing. Luocio said, Is there no need? But I just want to remember the times when I was with you, not just the four walls of the club. Yu Yi said indifferently, Time will dilute the memories. Luocio said something suitable for his age, then keep creating. Even if you forget, you can revisit the old place. If you can't, you can take photos. There are many ways. Yu Yi didn't insist, nodded and said softly, Then, please wait for a moment. In the dark alley, a man was running in a hurry. His strong hands ensured that he was able to move freely in this dirty and messy alley. But why was his hiding place exposed? Did someone betray him? Those hateful cops. Do they think they can catch me like this? 100 years too early. Bang! Suddenly, a loud noise sounded, and the man immediately felt a piercing pain, and his whole body fell to the ground. There was an obvious bloody hole on his thigh. The man painfully covered the wound, and turned his head to look behind him, only to see a middle-aged man wearing a khaki windbreaker leisurely walking over. It was the cop who suddenly brought people to his hiding place. The man gritted his teeth and quietly moved his hand. But the moment he moved his hand, he took a bullet. The bullet pierced through his palm, causing him to scream in agony once again. Idiot! Don't you know I'm the shooting number 1 in the police station? I can still shoot your head if you're a little further away. Just as the police officer's voice fell, several plainclothes rushed out from the back alley, and directly pressed the man to the ground. Officer Ma, you're so awesome, you actually found this guy's hiding place so quickly. A plainclothes officer immediately said respectfully, I wonder what kind of powerful informant you are? If you can, introduce me to him. Tisk, do I have to tell you that I have a powerful sister-in-law who has many eyes and ears? Officer Ma coldly snorted and said, Don't be happy too early. This guy is just a contact, the real big fish is still behind. Take this guy back for me, and interrogate him properly. I want him to spit out everything he knows. Bah, this group of scum. If I wasn't still wearing this uniform, I would have decisively shot his head. The plainclothes officer could only pretend not to hear. What should he say? If it wasn't for this kind of personality, and if he didn't often come out with this kind of speech, which gave the higher-ups an abnormal headache, this police officer would probably have already entered the higher-ups, right? At this moment, Officer Ma's phone suddenly rang. He impatiently picked up the phone, and then his face slightly changed, and he scolded, Are you idiots? How can a person die in the police station? Officer Ma received the news that the leader of the evil cult that they had just captured, the old guy who claimed to be a spiritual master, had just committed suicide. Damn it! What era is this? There's actually someone who bit his tongue to commit suicide? Are you kidding me? Officer Ma frowned, and angrily escorted the man into the police car. Yen PS1. If this chapter is boring, please don't blame me, the content wasn't originally like this, but it was later deleted and rewritten. A true powerhouse will use self-discipline to regulate himself. Logically speaking, when a person has power but doesn't have the corresponding temperament and self-discipline, sooner or later, he will be addicted to such power and gradually lose his nature. Boss Luo is still young, and hasn't gone to the spa yet. Manually crossed out, I don't want him to become a psychopath who is above all living things, because this isn't a cultivation novel, hey. Equals PS2. Let me add to the settings of this book. I don't want to be swept away by the harmonious storm, so I have to use the parallel world card. Although it's not very useful. PS3. Thank you Tyrant and Meow for your tips. Chapter 43. Genius remembers love in 1 second divided by little? We provide you with wonderful novels to read. Jiang Chu, your child's condition is worse than expected. Where did you find the bone marrow? His colleague frowned, looking at Dr. Jiang Chu with an ugly expression. Jiang Chu hurriedly asked, What's wrong? His colleague sighed. Jiang Chu, this kind of rejection usually happens when there's a mismatch, and it's almost fatal. I don't know where your child was operated on, but could there be something wrong? Under normal circumstances, there shouldn't be such a mistake. This is basically a murder. How could this happen? Jiang Chu was stunned, and then rushed out of his colleague's office in a panic. He lowered his head, not looking at anyone, as if he was on a rampage. Jiang Chu? What are you doing? He really met someone. It was the dean. And also Jiang Chu's teacher. Teacher? Jiang Chu was so flustered that he couldn't say a word. The dean sighed. I know about your child's condition, and I'm very sorry for what happened. How about this? You're not in a good condition now, so I'll arrange another doctor to replace you for today's operation. You should spend some time with your family these days. I'm also contacting some overseas hospitals to see if there's any way. Jiang Chu shook his head. Dean, I want to be alone. The dean nodded, sighing and leaving. He really felt sorry for him. This was supposed to be an opportunity to promote him, but now that such a thing happened, and the patient knew about it, of course he wouldn't let Jiang Chu do the operation. If he was distracted during the operation, it could be fatal at any moment. Jiang Chu walked alone in the corridor like a walking corpse. Were those girls who passed by in a hurry talking about him? Were his colleagues looking at him with pity? Or were they mocking him? Jiang Chu walked to the ward of the child, who was supposed to be the chief surgeon, and found that there was another doctor checking the situation and stabilizing the patient's emotions. A love go little say, Chu he didn't blame the director for replacing him at this time. Not to mention whether he could really hold the scalpel, he really couldn't feel at ease in the current situation. It would be better to say that giving up on this operation was more like a form of relief for him. He could not face the little girl's yearning gaze. Jiang Chu came to the rooftop of the hospital alone. Trembling, he took out his phone from his pocket and hesitated for a long time before dialing a certain number. Mr. Sun? A hoarse and synthetic voice came from the other end. It was Mr. Sun's voice. Dr. Jiang, it just so happens that I have something to talk to you about. Jiang Chu said in a low voice, Let's not talk about that now. Mr. Sun, there's something I need to ask you. Is the bone marrow you provided to my son a match? Mr. Sun continued, Now that Black Cat has been caught, the local police should be able to find you soon. I've arranged for you to leave immediately. What? Jiang Chu's expression suddenly changed, but at this moment, he suddenly shuddered and said, No. I can't leave. I can't leave my son alone. Mr. Sun said indifferently, You're still young, it's not difficult for you to have children. But if you don't leave, it's not good news for us. Black Cat is just a contact, it doesn't know much. But you know how much you know. We won't let you be caught by the police. You should understand what I mean, right? Jiang Chu roared like a madman. Tell me, is the bone marrow you provided my son a match? 1 hour later, someone will come to pick you up. You can only choose to leave or stay here forever. Remember, we don't lack doctors. Beep. Half an hour. Jiang Chu's hand slipped and the phone fell to the ground. He sat down weakly on the ground. Mr. Sun was resourceful. If he said 1 hour, it would be 1 hour. He wouldn't live a minute more or less. He gritted his teeth and rushed down from the rooftop. The iron door of the rooftop made a loud bang. At the same time, the crisp sound of high heels hitting the cement slab was heard. Master, Jiang Chu is at his wit's end, right? Do you think he will choose to leave or stay? Luoqiu thought for a while. It depends on how deep his love for his son is. Yu Yi nodded and said, But I'm beginning to understand why Master came to the hospital. Luoqiu asked curiously, Why? Yu Yi smiled. The hospital is a place where hope and despair coexist. It's also a place where life and death converge. Regardless of whether they were patients or family members, they would all feel despair and helplessness. It's really a good place to cultivate potential customers. Yi will ask Black Soul envoys to pay more attention to the hospital in the future. Wait a minute. Is there some kind of misunderstanding? It must be a misunderstanding, right? I just came out for a walk and to check on Jiang Chu's condition, but he didn't intend to correct Yu Ye's idea. Instead, he muttered, 1 hour, it's time to make a decision. 1 hour. 1 hour. He was well aware of the terror behind Mr. Sunday. He only had 1 hour left. No, it could be 59 minutes or even 58 minutes. Jiang Chu hurried down the stairs. A group of medical staff was pushing a bed past him. It was the girl who was supposed to be operated on. The little girl didn't know much about the world. She smiled when she saw the doctor she had seen before. In the midst of his haste, this smile caused ripples in Jiang Chu's heart. He suddenly stopped his footsteps and supported himself against the wall, feeling as if he was about to collapse. Unknowingly, Jiang Chu came to another ward. His exhausted ex-wife leaned against his son's bed, grabbing his son's hand and falling asleep. Jiang Chu didn't dare to make a sound. He walked to the bed and looked at his son with a complicated expression. He was supposed to have a happy life. Yes, he should have, if the bone marrow was compatible. Jiang Chu reached out his trembling hand, wanting to touch his son's face. But he withdrew his hand abruptly. He gritted his teeth and walked out of the ward. He walked to the small park downstairs of the hospital and sat on the stone bench. Then, he started to daydream. 1 hour later, Jiang Chu was still sitting at the same place until an ordinary-looking man in a black suit approached him. Dr. Jiang, Mr. Sun asked me to pick you up. Please leave. Jiang Chu raised his head slowly, looking at the man. He patted the bench beside him and said, Don't be impatient, sit down. I have a few questions that I want to ask you. The man frowned, saying coldly, Dr. Jiang, I hope you won't make it difficult for me. Please leave with me now. Looking at the man's action of reaching into his pocket, Jiang Chu sneered. What? I've done so much for Mr. Sun, but in the end, you don't even want to spare me a few minutes? However, the man calmly took out a folded military knife from his bosom. Mr. Sun said that if Dr. Jiang doesn't cooperate, you don't have to stay here. The man was about to make a move, but at this moment, a thunderous voice suddenly sounded. Suddenly, 6 or 7 figures rushed out from the surroundings. The one leading them was Officer Ma. Don't move. You've been surrounded. Put down the weapon and surrender. The man's cold eyes stared at Jiang Chu's face. Jiang Chu's lips trembled, saying agitatedly, You cheated me with the fake bone marrow. Don't blame me for being heartless. I'll call the police. I'll expose everything about you. Ha ha, since they have already found me, I won't be able to escape. Let's all die together. The man snorted, stabbing Jiang Chu's neck calmly. Bang! A gunshot sounded at the same time. The man's wrist was hit by the bullet, and the military knife fell to the ground. Damn it! I told you I'm the sharpshooter in the bureau. Damn it, you don't listen. Catch him. F***CK. Useless. Stop him. Don't let him escape. F***CK off. Go after him. Go F***CK all of you if he escapes. The hot-tempered Officer Ma flew into a rage. Sir Ma, our brothers are looking around. He's injured and can't escape. What should we do with this guy? 2 plainclothes escorted Jiang Chu to Officer Ma. Officer Ma said, What else can we do? This guy is an important witness, send him back immediately. Watch him carefully. Well, stuff this guy's mouth with something and tie him up. Damn it. Officer, before I leave, can I see my son one more time? I beg you. Jiang Chu suddenly begged. Officer Ma sneered, What? Now you've got a conscience and remember your son? Did your conscience get eaten by a dog when you helped this group of scumbags take human organs to sell? Jiang Chu's face turned pale, kneeling on the ground painfully, begging, Please, let me see my son one last time. He can't hold on for long. Chapter 44. Genius 1 second. Remember love / go / little? We provide you with wonderful novels to read. Officer Ma took off Jiang Chu's white coat and wrapped it around his handcuffed hands. Then, he warned, "You have 5 minutes." "Thank you." Jiang Chu choked with sobs. Officer Ma called over 2 assistants and ordered, "Keep an eye on him. Bring him back to the police station when the time is up." "Understood." Officer Ma nodded and watched the 2 leave with Jiang Chu. He cursed and walked towards another direction. However, before he could take 2 steps, his phone rang. Officer Ma picked it up and nodded after listening to the conversation. You bunch of bastards, you've done well this time. How did you manage to capture him so quickly?" The other side of the phone said, "That guy rushed into the back alley of the hospital. When we chased after him, he fainted on the ground. It seemed that he was hit by a flower pot that fell from upstairs." Officer Ma was stunned. First, a criminal committed suicide by biting his tongue. Now, a scumbag was hit by a flower pot. Was this karma? After walking out of the elevator, they arrived at the second room at the end of the corridor. It was his son's ward. Jiang Chu lowered his head. 2 plainclothes officers followed him at a steady pace. Occasionally, people walking along the corridor would look at him strangely. The white coat hanging from his hands was probably for his psychological comfort. With 2 officers following behind him, it was easy for people to think of something. Jiang Chu even saw some familiar nurses. They wanted to talk to him, but he shook his head and stopped them. He smiled bitterly. He had walked along this corridor often, but he had never felt it was so long. "Officers, can you let me go in alone later? I promise I won't run away. Besides, I can't run away." Jiang Chu turned around and begged them. One of the officers thought for a while and nodded. They were on the 7th floor. Jiang Chu's hands were still handcuffed. It was impossible for him to escape. At this moment, a cleaner pushed a trolley from the front. 2 plainclothes guards took Jiang Chu to the side and made way. Unexpectedly, at this moment, the cleaner suddenly pushed the cart towards the 3 of them. With a wave of his sleeve, a dagger slipped out of his sleeve. The cleaner caught the dagger instantly and was about to stab Jiang Chu. But at this moment, a bottle of mineral water that was thrown from a distance smashed into the cleaner's head. This full bottle of water was no less powerful than a heavy punch. The cleaner suddenly felt dizzy. By the time he reacted, he was already pinned to the ground by 2 plainclothes officers. He couldn't move at all. At this moment, Officer Ma walked over with a cold smile. "You King retard. I knew you had some tricks up your sleeves. Do you think I will let this guy come up so casually?" The cleaner who was being held down didn't say a word. He just stared at Officer Ma. Officer Ma snorted and handcuffed the cleaner. Then he called another plain-clothed policeman to guard the cleaner at the same time. "You, take this guy over, and let him go in alone," Officer Ma ordered. Jiang Chu glanced at this officer who liked to swear gratefully. He lowered his head and walked to the end of the corridor silently. Officer Ma lit a cigarette while looking at the cleaner. "Officer Ma, this is a hospital." Officer Ma was stunned. He put out the cigarette with an irritated face, saying, "You're dead, scum. You'd better cooperate with us." The cleaner suddenly smiled strangely. "Officer, you're so smart. You know we have a trick up our sleeve." Officer Ma sneered. "I've eaten more salt than you." The cleaner said, "But what if we have a trick up our sleeve?" Officer Ma was stunned. He suddenly had a bad feeling. At the same time, the surroundings suddenly turned dark, and all the lights went out at this moment. Officer Ma reacted quickly and tried to catch the cleaner. However, he was lifted up in the stomach. Then, his partner bumped into him. Both of them fell to the ground at the same time. The power was cut off very quickly, but it was restored in just a few seconds. However, at both ends of the corridor, no one knew where the cleaner had run off to. "There's a third one!" Officer Ma stood up from the ground, cursing angrily. He chased after Jiang Chu. When he turned the corner at the end of the corridor, he saw his limbs lying on the ground. He covered his abdomen and was bleeding profusely. However, Jiang Chu was nowhere to be seen. Officer Ma looked around with confusion and shame. Where did Jiang Chu go? Jiang Chu didn't know where he was. An unprecedented fear shrouded him. This was the rooftop of the hospital. But he remembered clearly that he was in the corridor on the 7th floor. When he was about to enter his son's ward, the surroundings suddenly turned dark. He heard the groan of the plainclothes officer behind him. At this moment, Jiang Chu suddenly realized that Mr. Sun wouldn't let him go so easily. Perhaps he would die in the next second. But his son was right in front of him, separated only by a door. But he couldn't see him. A strong feeling of grief, indignation and despair pushed Jiang Chu's emotions to the peak. Suddenly, his eyes lit up and he appeared on the rooftop of the hospital. For example, a strange person appeared in front of Jiang Chu, a strange person wearing a clown mask and holding a black cane, as if he had been waiting for Jiang Chu for a long time. A strange person. Who are you? Are you also sent by Mr. Sun? Jiang Chu looked at the stranger in horror. Luoqiu looked quite calm under the mask. Dr. Jiang, shouldn't you already know who I am? Jiang Chu gave a start. Luoqiu waved his cane. A black card slid out from Luoqiu's doctor gown and flew into Luoqiu's palm. Jiang Chu was absent-minded. The club business, you're here for me? Luoqiu shook his head. I'm not here for you. But you want to see me. This black card sensed the most pressing thoughts in your heart, so it brought you to me. You can help me? Jiang Chu shivered. In just a few seconds, he had appeared on the rooftop. This sudden change, the appearance of this strange person wearing a clown mask, and the black card that flew out of his hand. Something inconceivable was happening to him right now. Really? I can buy anything? Jiang Chu swallowed his saliva and asked. Luoqiu said indifferently, sure, but you have to be able to afford the value of the items you need. Jiang Chu hesitated. If I say that I want my son to be safe, can you do it? Luoqiu said, yes. Jiang Chu kept silent for a while. What do I need to pay? Luoqiu said, Dr. Jiang, what else do you think you can pay? Well, maybe I should give you a hint. Love go little saying Netu Chu. First of all, if the black card didn't bring you here, theoretically you would be dead. Of course, you're our important customer and we need to protect our customers, so we won't charge you anything. Looking at Jiang Chu's uneasy face, Luoqiu said directly, but you have to understand, Dr. Jiang, you're a dying man and you'll have nothing after you die. No need to say more. Jiang Chu suddenly took a deep breath. You're demons. I knew you were demons when I heard that voice. The most valuable thing should be my soul, right? For normal people, the most valuable thing is indeed the soul. Luoqiu didn't avoid this topic. Jiang Chu smiled bitterly. Only you guys who are like demons would fancy a dirty soul like me. Ah. He fell to his knees in pain. His eyes were lifeless as he looked at the handcuffs on his hands. His hands trembled as he said hoarsely, I knew it. I knew it from the very beginning. When I used the scalpel to cut open the first person's body, I knew that I wouldn't have a good ending. Old man? Men? Women? Vagrants? Even orphans, the one after another. I can never forget the way they looked at me. He covered his face, crying bitterly. I had no choice. They said they could give me a bone marrow match. I can't let my son die. He's not even 11 years old. His life hasn't started yet. Even if my hands are stained with blood, I will use it to open a new life for him. Even if I have to go to hell, I dare. Mr. Sun lied to me. They lied to me. Retribution. Retribution. This is my retribution, ha 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 ha. My soul, you can take it if you want. I don't know how many people I've harmed, and I know I can't repay them even if I die. But in the end, I still hope I can save the lives of those who deserve it. Luoqiu said, Tell me what you want, Jiang Chu said dispiritedly. I want my son and his mother to be safe. I don't want them to be persecuted. In fact, I hope that you can bring Mr. Sun and his gang to justice. Luoqiu kept silent for a while. Sorry, your soul isn't worth that much. The former or the latter? Jiang Chu smiled bitterly. Really? This dirty soul isn't worth much. Fine, then I'll take the former. As long as they are safe, I'm satisfied. Even if he didn't make the deal, his reputation would be ruined. Even if he was caught, Mr. Sun and his gang wouldn't let him go. This group of people was resourceful and had many ways to get him out of prison. Besides, his son wouldn't make it. His ex-wife would be grieving because of his son's death. It was the worst-case scenario. Then, if he could still get something back, there was no need to hesitate. He looked at Clown. Can I see my son one last time? Luoqiu nodded. With a wave of Black's cane, the two of them had arrived at a ward from the rooftop. Luoqiu tapped on Jiang Chu's ex-wife's shoulder with his cane. Seeing Jiang Chu become nervous, he said, Dr. Jiang, you don't want to be disturbed during your last farewell, right? Jiang Chu nodded and didn't say anything. He walked to the bedside and held his son's hand, placing it on his cheek silently. He looked at his son in a daze. Luoqiu didn't have the slightest intention of urging him. He waited patiently in silence. Suddenly, Jiang Chu stood up with red eyes and kissed his son's forehead gently, murmuring, You will have a good life, do you know that? I'm useless, I've done many wrong things, I'm sorry. He took a deep breath, looking at Luoqiu calmly. Can I go to this hospital for the last time? Yes. Luoqiu nodded. Jiang Chu was walking along the corridor of the hospital. Strangely, no one who walked past him seemed to be able to see him. He walked right in front of them. He knew it was the ability of the devil, so he didn't care about it. He walked past the emergency room. I hadn't graduated at that time and was assigned here for an internship. It was the old dean who took a fancy to me and sent me here after graduation. The calligraphy on the wall was written by me. It's been so many years, but it hasn't been taken down. Jiang Chu smiled, looking at these and talking about these things, as if he wanted Luoqiu, who would accompany him to the end of his life, not to feel too bored. Luoqiu suddenly asked, Dr. Jiang, if you could start your life over, would you still choose to help Mr. Sun? Jiang Chu stopped, thinking for a while. Yes, I would. But this time, I'll check whether the bone marrow matches, instead of blindly believing. Luoqiu nodded, saying suddenly, Time's up. Jiang Chu nodded, taking a deep breath. There was nothing to worry about. Suddenly, a nurse rushed in, asking hurriedly, Is Dr. Chen here? Dr. Chen? What's the matter? Dr. Huang was in the middle of an operation due to the power outage, but he was frightened and made a mistake. Although the power was restored immediately, Dr. Huang fainted due to excessive nervousness. The dean said the operation can't be stopped. Dr. Chen? Me? I'm just an intern. It's too late, the patient's family agreed. But where's Dr. Jiang? We can't find him. Hurry up. Hurry up. It's urgent. The nurse hurriedly pulled a young doctor out of the room and left in a flurry. Seeing all this happening before him, Jiang Chu smiled bitterly. Is it because I hurt another one? You should be the one to do the operation. Jiang Chu stared blankly at Luoqiu. An unprecedented impulse made him blurt out, Can you give me another 5 hours? No, 4 hours? Dean. I really can't do it. The young Dr. Chen was at a loss, standing beside the old dean. The old dean could only comfort him. Just do it boldly, or the patient will die. The situation is very dangerous now, I have no other choice. So you want me, a half-baked person, to take over? The young doctor was full of anger. The hospital could take over. Not including Jiang Chu, who couldn't be found, there were at least 1 or 2 doctors. Let me do it. Suddenly, a steady voice sounded, and the one who walked in was Jiang Chu in a white robe. His face was pale, but his eyes were the most spirited one the old dean had ever seen in so many years. "Jiang Chu, you're not." The old dean seemed to know something, looking at Jiang Chu in surprise. Jiang Chu walked to the dean, saying softly, "Teacher, I'm just a doctor now. Can I?" The patient's family didn't want such a young doctor to take over. But they couldn't do anything about the hospital system. When the patient's grandfather saw that his old friend had found a young doctor to treat him, he was very upset. Seeing Jiang Chu, the original chief surgeon, he didn't want to say anything but said directly, "Dr. Jiang, I'm sorry about your child. But if you can save my granddaughter—" Jiang Chu waved his hand. "I just want to save her. I don't want to say too much. If it's possible, please let me in." Although he was asking to let him in, Jiang Chu had already walked straight to the operating room. The nurse in surgical gown hurriedly made way for him, and said hurriedly, "Dr. Jiang, let me disinfect your wound first." In the operating room, everything was so familiar. Jiang Chu held the scalpel without trembling, and his fingers even looked strong and powerful. He had never felt so energetic and focused before. He could not remember how long it had been since he was able to perform such a surgery on the operating table with the same focus as he was now. He didn't think about anything, but only hoped that every scalpel could land on the most precise spot. The scalpel seemed to have turned into a sharp sword, cutting off the rope that was supposed to drag this little life to death. One by one, he had already forgotten the passage of time. It was silent in the operating room, until a clank sound was heard, which was the sound of the metal tools Jiang Chu put on the tray. Jiang Chu heaved a long sigh, "Stop the bleeding and suture the wound." "Dr. Jiang, you are so awesome! So awesome! Dr. Jiang? Dr. Jiang?" The moment Jiang Chu took off his mask, he slowly fell to the ground. There was a smile on his face, looking peaceful and satisfied. "Is this Jiang Chu's soul? It's so beautiful, I thought it couldn't reach this level of purity." In the club, Yu Yi held up a crystal box. Inside, there was a ball of light that was emitting a pink glow. It was so pure that there were no impurities in it. Luoqiu looked at the mobile phone he took from Jiang Chu, looking at the photo in the phone, saying softly, "Maybe it's because he got redemption in the end. I think he made a profit this time, and a lot," Yu Yi said with a smile. Luoqiu suddenly said, "Yeah, it wasn't enough, but now it's enough. It's a pity that we didn't mention it before the deal." Luoqiu shook his head. "Maybe it's because fate is fickle." Saying this, he dialed a number in the phone, but he immediately heard such a sentence. "Sorry, the number you dialed is not in service." Luoqi had to murmur, "So fast." Shaking his head, Luoqi stood up, holding the crystal box in his hand. Yu Yi asked, "Master, are you going to sacrifice it?" "Store it." Yen PS1. This chapter has 5,000 words, count it as 2 chapters today. PS2. Theoretically, there will be an update after midnight tonight, and the new book period is almost over. But I haven't shown my face in the top 12 of the new book list. Who can continue it for me? PS3. So, what I want is to recommend and collect it. Chapter 45. Genius 1 second. Remember love/go/little? We provide you with wonderful novels to read. Luoqiu? You must be Luoqiu. Boss Luo was suddenly stopped by someone. Basically, the probability of being stopped by someone in this place was quite low. But he was still stopped by someone. If he remembered correctly, it should be his high school classmate. The period before the college entrance examination was the lowest period of Luoqiu's life. Therefore, after the college entrance examination, he basically lost contact with everyone in his class. He couldn't remember his name. Boss Luo could only nod and use the golden phrase of daily communication. "So you came to this university too?" "Yeah." His former classmate was very enthusiastic as he approached him. "I didn't expect to see you. Although I heard that you got in, it's not easy to not see you for so long." "I'm majoring in paleontology. It's normal that I don't meet you. His classmate was curious. Paleontology? Our school has this major? Therefore, Boss Luo felt that he must have been bewitched to choose this major at the beginning. He was not interested in reminiscing, so he continued to use the golden phrase of interpersonal communication. Yes. Well, I'm about to go to class. Let's talk next time. Okay. His classmate smiled and suddenly said, Let's exchange numbers? Let's keep in touch. Luochio could not refuse such a reasonable request, so he could only exchange numbers and go their separate ways. Classmate A? Whatever. Because he really could not remember his classmate's name, Luochio simply recorded the name on his contact list and then walked towards the classroom. The last time he came to class was 10 days ago. This time, he did not come back to class because the class teacher was taking attendance, but because he received a message from Zhang Qingrui. Luochio, let's go to class. It was a simple message. Zhang Qingrui arrived earlier than Luochio. At this time, she was already sitting in the classroom and leisurely eating the takeout breakfast. Because there were only 2 people in this class, even the act of opening the door was enough to attract the attention of the other person. Luochio, you're here. Zhang Qingrui raised her head and smiled at Luochio. Have you had breakfast? I can't finish it all by myself. Luochio shook his head and sat down 2 rows behind Zhang Qingrui. Out of curiosity, Luochio took the initiative to ask, Why are you so proactive this time? Zhang Qingrui didn't even turn her head. She continued chewing the bun in her hand. Do you want to experience the life in the ivory tower? Or perhaps they felt that they were wasting their time in the past and didn't want to find that their university life was a blank slate when they looked back 10 or 20 years later. Maybe it's not a bad idea to start a relationship now. Puff Luoqi, who had just unscrewed the cap of the mineral water, immediately choked after taking a sip. Zhang Qingrui turned around and said angrily, What's the problem? So Luochio used the golden saying for the 3rd time today, Nothing, as long as you're happy. What? You don't think that's something I should say? Zhang Qingrui obviously didn't want to let it go easily. Luochio stayed silent for a while before saying, I feel that you're more rational than emotional. Zhang Qingrui seemed to be a little different from the one he knew. She suddenly became more lively in both behavior and speech. Usually, people would become like this, either because they encountered something particularly happy, or because they encountered something particularly bad and carried out a form of self-protection. It was like telling others, I'm fine, the world is stable, blah 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 blah. So in your opinion, I'm the kind of woman who's career-minded at such a young age? Seeing that Zhang Qingrui seemed to want to continue the topic, Luochio had to interrupt. The class bell rang. Why isn't the professor here yet? Zhang Qingrui stopped and said casually, Probably because he didn't expect both of us to be here today. But if he's not here after class, I haven't been here for 2 weeks. Luochio, how many days have you been here? Today. Is it because the professor thinks we're hopeless, so he's not coming? The 2 didn't look at each other affectionately. Instead, they were both stunned. After a while of silence, Luochio stood up and was about to walk out of the classroom. Zhang Qingrui always thought that Luochio was the kind of person who would act on his decisions. For example, now that he knew the professor wouldn't come, he left without saying anything. Zhang Qingrui hesitated for a while before she packed up her things and said to herself, I didn't expect the first day of my ivory tower life to end in failure. She couldn't help but think about the agreement she made with her grandmother. This was the free time that she fought so hard to get. At least before graduation, she could do something she wanted to do. All of a sudden, time became precious. Zhang Qingrui, who didn't want to waste the first day, suddenly raised her voice. Luochio, wait a minute. What do you want? Don't always look like someone owes you thousands of yuan. Zhang Qingrui walked down the stairs quickly and came to Luochio, saying with a smile, Since you're here, do you want to walk around? I need you. Luochio gave a start. He looked around and pointed at himself with a confused expression. Zhang Qingrui said happily, "Don't think too much. I just want you to do me a favor. We're classmates, you won't refuse such a small favor, right?" No. Luoqiu suddenly said, "I have something to do, I'm leaving." Zhang Qingrui gave a start. But Luoqiu suddenly walked out of the door without any intention of coming back. She couldn't help being curious. How did this guy make that beauty fall in love with him? Zhang Qingrui then shook her head. "Why should I care so much about others? I should take care of myself for the next 2 or 3 years." When Boss Luo saw that there was no one in the corridor, he took a step forward and stepped on the floor of the rooftop of the teaching building. He looked at the campus below. The reason why he suddenly left was that he sensed the presence of a Black Soul envoy nearby. And this Black Soul envoy was Taiyinzi. Luoqiu moved his mind, and in the blink of an eye, a phantom that was invisible to ordinary people slid up from below, and finally converged into a phantom in front of Luoqiu. Taiyinzi greets the master. Luoqiu looked at Taiyinzi from head to toe, asking curiously, "Yu Yi said you're a fast learner, so she tried to let you go out? Is this the place you chose?" Taiyinzi hurriedly said, "Yes, Black Soul number 9, who taught me, recommended this place to me with many people. She said it's more suitable for a newbie like me. I didn't know the master was here." "I'm studying here," Luoqiu said indifferently. Then Luoqiu asked curiously, "How long have you been here?" Taiyinzi said, "Several hours." Luoqiu said, "Have you found anything?" Taiyinzi said, "Master, I've already found a suitable financial backer. This person's desire is very strong. From his appearance, he's narrow-minded and vicious. It should be very easy to bewitch him." This was much more interesting than accompanying Zhang Qingrui to tour the garden. Luoqiu smiled. "Then take me to see him." Yen PS1. Please vote. PS2. If I can't pass the 12th goalkeeper of the new book list this week, then I'll have to pass the new book list and completely become a salted fish. PS3. So, PS2 exists because I want to tell you. I'm actually still asking for your recommendation. Chapter 46. Genius 1 second. Remember love divided by go divided by little? Sagnet, providing you with wonderful novels to read. Taiyinzi brought Luoqiu to the boys' dormitory. Love go little say, 'cause speaking of which, Luoqiu actually had his own bed in the dormitory here. In fact, the school required accommodation. But his home was nearby, and classes could be ignored, so this bed was left behind. This is the person with a very strong desire, a narrow-minded, and a heart of snakes and scorpions? Yes, master, please take a look. In a boys' dormitory that was not too dirty and messy, Luoqiu and Taiyinzi appeared behind a boy. Strangely, the boy did not seem to notice that there was someone behind him. Taiyinzi walked to the side of the Prince Charming. "Master, look, this person is talking to someone in this room. Modern technology is too strange. Through such a strange thing we can communicate with people. This is called a computer." "Oh, master, look." Taiyinzi pointed at the words that the boy typed on the computer screen. "This person is very vicious. Look, he is planning how to poison someone to death. From the poison to the murder method, it is all very secretive. The most important thing was that this guy had a happy smile on his face when he was plotting these things. It is a smile with a knife hidden in it." Luoqiu glanced at it, shook his head, and said indifferently, "Let's go." He was running a team, brother, and although his desire was big, it was just a desire to create. Although he could consider becoming a financial backer, there was no profit. Even if he could tempt the other party to trade souls, the quality would be very poor. Boss Luo felt that he was not so desolate that he needed to be so desperate. "Master, you don't like it?" Taiyinzi panicked and said quickly, "It's okay. Today's harvest is not only this. Master, please follow me." The second place Taiyinzi brought Luoqiu to was the female dormitory. After hesitating for a moment, Boss Luo finally went in and arrived at a room with underwear hanging everywhere. Master, please look. This wishful thinking. The computer was displaying such a filthy image. Yes. What kind of people were they? Why is his skin black? It doesn't matter. Most importantly, it showed that the foreign man was. Was this blonde woman also a foreign woman? Too filthy. How could a woman do such a thing with so many men? Why do these foreign men have so much to do? Well, let's get back to the topic of this sugar daddy. Master, look. When this woman saw these images, she was actually aroused. Her face was flushed red, and she even reached out her hand. She was simply too asterisk. This kind of innate lust for sex and the willingness to indulge in the desires of the body. Master? Where are you going, Master? King retard. Master, please look. This group of people in this room were simply heartless. The man in white was teaching this group of young people how to kill. This man lying on the bed had obviously been harmed. This man in white was extremely familiar with the human body. Master, please look. I'm afraid this is a rather evil assassin training base. Master, where are you going? He was in the middle of an autopsy class. Master, where are you going? Wait for me. Boss Luo sighed. He did not understand why he was here watching a 5-minute drama. Love go little say networku. Master, this time must be. Master, where are you going? Wait. Men and men were truly in love. It was not something that was against morals. Master, wait for me. I have another discovery. Tainzi said in a panic in front of Luochio again. This was not good. This was the first time he came out to do something, but it seemed that he had not found a sugar daddy that could interest his master. Tainzi was very anxious, and speaking of which, what had become of this modern society? There were so many sinners, how could it be normal? Luochio sighed and stopped, saying in a low voice, Black Soul number 9, come and see me. Not long after, a shadow emerged from the ground. Unexpectedly, it was almost dead. Sure enough, this guy was also worried about Tainzi, so he had been loitering nearby. Master, what are your orders? Black Soul number 9 asked dully. Luochio said, well, the library of this school is over there. You take Tainzi there. Don't teach him how to bewitch humans. Teach him some modern life knowledge. Black Soul number 9 nodded. But thinking of the sugar daddy that Tainzi mentioned, Luochio felt that his eyes were stung for a long time, so he said seriously, use the force-feeding method. Yes, master. Seeing that Tainzi was about to say something but was dragged away by Black Soul number 9, Luochio shook his head and sat down on a bench at the side. He took out his phone and habitually glanced at his Jihu account. These 2 days, there was no reply about the text that was taken from the former boss room. But he did not expect to get a reply after opening it this time. The reply was from a person called Huang Jintong, who was also the one who answered that it was suspected to be Coptic language at the beginning. The reply was like this. Well, seeing the text that was posted this time, it should be a complete sentence. As for the source, it seems that the same sentence appeared on a page of the Gospel of Judas that was copied by ancient Egyptians in the 3rd to 4th century AD. But I'm not sure, I hope it can help you. After reading it, Luochio muttered strangely, Judas? Luochio knew about the Judas that appeared in Western legends because he was not a believer. What he knew was some information that was circulated on the internet. One of the 12 disciples. Because he betrayed the Lord Jesus for 30 coins. There were still some photos on his phone and some pictures of the Gospel of Judas that were circulated on the internet. Luochio started to compare them on the spot. Is it really the Gospel? Luochio was surprised to find that one page could be found in the pictures that were passed down. There were many similarities with the text that he took. Feeling that there seemed to be some clues about the strange text, Luochio's depressed mood improved a little. At the same time, 2 girls walked past him quickly. Tujaya is here. Seems like she's shooting a MV here to release a new single. Let's go take a look. I'm afraid we can't squeeze in if we're late. Luochu raised his head, looking at the two girls' backs that ran past him in a hurry, revealing a curious expression. Although he was a person who preferred to be alone, it was not to the extent that he didn't pay attention to the outside world. There were many channels to understand and consult in modern times. If he didn't know Tujaya, he wouldn't be able to find her in this area. She was a singer who swept all the major lists and attracted countless fans. She could sing like the sound of nature. Moreover, she was a talented creative girl. Yen 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 PS1. Thank you to the readers cute_shoo_, fate_perverted lullicon, begonia blooming queen, and unrestrained black man for their tip. PS2. So this time I'm looking for recommendation votes and favorites on PS2. PS3. The book review section is flooded with mother of sex. Give me some seeds for me to criticize. Chapter 47. Genius 1 second. Remember love/go/little? Shua.net provides you with wonderful novels to read. Sister, drink some water first. Today's sun is too strong. I'll urge the director to start the filming as soon as possible. If it goes on like this, I'll faint. Tujaya took the cup from her sister Tujiaching, shaking her head. It's okay, I'm fine. But you've been busy since you woke up this morning. You should have a good rest. Tujiaching shook her head at once. Sister, I'm not tired at all. You're a big star now, a singer. If I don't watch you closely, what if someone takes advantage of you? Don't worry. I'm going to talk to the director now. I'll be here soon. TSK this kid. Looking at Tujiaching, who ran away energetically, Tujaya shook her head. After drinking some water, she concentrated on reading the script in her hand. As if she had completely integrated into her own world. Even if it was just around here, it had long become jammed with onlookers and paparazzi who were following and reporting the news. Click, click. A slight shutter sound. But for musicians who were good at capturing sound sources, they could hear it clearly. Tujaya frowned. She found a woman who should have sneaked to the side of the van to take photos. She was probably a reporter with a certificate hanging around her neck. Miss, you're not allowed to come close here. A bodyguard came up at once, saying to the female reporter in a low voice, delete what you've just taken and leave here immediately. The female reporter raised her nose and laughed. What if I don't leave? Miss, please be polite. Polite, your mother. Why were women so tough these days? The bodyguard felt very depressed. As the saying went, a good man wouldn't fight with a woman, especially a woman with a shrew character. Well, although she was pretty, she was a bit stubborn. Miss, please be polite. And please leave. The bodyguard said again in a low voice. Unexpectedly, Tujaya said softly, let her come over. She's my good friend, it's okay. The bodyguard gave a start, seeing this woman with a camera push him away smilingly, walking to the door of the van. Tujaya shook her head. King Kong, it's fine here. I'll talk to my friend. King Kong had no choice but to nod and return to his original position. Superstars are indeed different. This bodyguard is also very strong. As the female reporter spoke, she looked at Tujaya and commented, Tisk tisk, your figure is also good. Did you have plastic surgery? Tujaya said angrily, Miss Renziling, can't you be serious? It's been a few years since I last saw you. You're still the same. Renziling laughed and stepped into the minivan. She looked around and said, how is it? You should be doing well these years. You have won several music awards in a row. Right now, you're definitely one of the most popular female singers in the South. Tujaya shook her head. There's nothing good or bad about it. Popular people are prone to gossip. What's wrong? Renziling asked curiously. But Tujaya said, it's nothing. As for you, are you still working as a reporter? How have you been? I was working outside at that time. I heard that your husband. Renziling stretched herself and said, I don't think about anything now. I just want to work hard and raise my son well. Son. Tujaya's eyes lit up. She grabbed Renziling's hand and said, What did we talk about when we were in school? Good sisters for life? You didn't even tell me that you have a child. Tell me, what does my nephew look like? Is he cute? You're really too much. Why don't you show him when you have a son? Renziling suddenly turned her eyes and said, Girl, do you really want to see your big nephew? Isn't this nonsense? But can you leave now? Renziling squinted. If you can, maybe I can let you see him right away. To be honest, my son is very handsome. Tujaya hesitated for a moment. If it's just a while, it should be okay. The shooting hasn't officially started. A love go little saying netwaku, okay, I'll ask him to come over right away, and let you hug him. What? Renziling jumped out of the nanny van and walked to the side to make a phone call. Tujaya was stupefied. She thought to herself, Is this good sister bringing her kid to work? Hello, son. Hello? Luaccio? What's up? Where are you now? Luaccio, who was still searching for information about the Gospel of Judas, thought carefully after hearing this question. Normally, he should be at school. He was indeed at school. Of course, if he answered that he was at home or not at school, Renziling, who was overflowing with maternal love, would definitely nag him. Cool. That's great, I'm here too. Come here, I'm here. No. Wait, aren't you curious why I'm at your school? Not at all. The newspaper office where Renziling worked was actually specialized in publishing gossip news. Luaccio had a general idea about why she came here when he heard the two girls talking about the superstar. Okay. I'll come over. Where are you? Wait. I'll come over. Strictly speaking, Black Soul Number 9 was an old ghost. As for Tainzi, needless to say, he was a 500-year-old ghost. So what could these two old ghosts do in a university library filled with mostly young people? Boss Luo said he would give Tainzi a force-feeding education, so the only thing he could do was to study. What? How dare the abominable Tatars invade our Ming dynasty? This Wu Sangui deserves to be hacked into pieces. It's good that the Qing dynasty was destroyed. These damn barbarians, how dare they invade our Kelowna? Kill them! He was reading an abridged book of ancient and modern history. While Tai Inzi was reading, he was making a big fuss. He was dancing with joy, blowing his beard and glaring his eyes. If it wasn't for the fact that he was now a Black Soul envoy and was neither a ghost nor a ghost, no one could see him, he would have been chased out with a broom long ago. Black Soul Number 9 had learned some modern words during this period, and he felt that one of them could be used to describe Tainzi's situation. King retard, Black Soul Number 9 shook his head. If it weren't for the club owner's order, he wouldn't have thought of teaching a newbie Black Soul. He just sat aside quietly, looking at the young man in the library. Maybe he could find a suitable customer here. Desires were hidden in one's heart, but with careful observation, one could usually find some. People were the most lax when they were alone, and when they felt no one was paying attention to them, they would show their true nature. Black Soul envoys could switch between showing and hiding, so they could easily observe the unknown side of human beings. Black Soul Number 9 frowned at the sight of a young woman walking towards him, who seemed to be looking for an empty seat. He had been a Black Soul envoy for a long time, so his ability couldn't be compared to Tainzi. This woman had a very pure soul and could provide a high-quality transaction fee. Just as Black Soul Number 9 was about to carefully observe this woman, some scenes suddenly flashed through his mind. Holding an oil paper umbrella, someone was gazing at him in the drizzle, and seemed to be calling something. The scene was hazy, but there was a feeling of sadness in Black Soul Number 9's mind. Black Soul Number 9 tried his best to see the figure in the hazy pus until the woman, who intended to seduce him as a potential customer, walked past him. The woman's appearance overlapped with the vague figure in his mind. Black Soul number 9 murmured absent-mindedly, Lan Fong. He called out a name that felt strange yet familiar at the same time. He stared blankly at the woman who seemed to be puzzled about something and stopped in her tracks. Zhang Qingrui hesitated. She seemed to have heard someone calling out the name Lanfang. It was her grandmother's name. But there was only an empty table in front of her, and no one was there. It's weird. Was this place empty before? She shook her head. Since there was an empty seat, she might as well sit down. Yen 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 PS1. Thanks again to Cute Shoo Shoo Unrestrained Black Man for the tip. PS2. Yes. You killed the goalkeeper and became the goalkeeper, and representative. Well done. Although there is no red packet, I have an update, which is the best gift for a writer to give back to the readers. Balabala. PS3. Actually, PS3 can also be understood as the author clearly has the heart of a tycoon reader, but is too proud to say it out loud. PS4. Yes, I'm the standard PS4 who asks for votes, favorites and tip. Chapter 48. Genius remembers love in 1 second divided by small? We provide you with wonderful novels to read. Strictly speaking, Luoqiu should be very clear about Ren Xiling's routine. For example, from the tone of her voice on the phone, Luoqiu knew that this woman must have some strange ideas. But why did I still come here? Luoqiu, who couldn't understand this question, saw Ren Xiling waving at him from afar. As for who the woman with sunglasses and a hat standing next to her was, Luoqiu didn't care at all. Similar things happened occasionally before. Luoqiu. This child is my new intern, isn't she cute? This child is learning piano. I met her when I was looking for material. Doesn't she look like a pretty girl from a humble family? Well, a woman 3 years older is like a golden brick. This age is actually suitable. The most important thing is that she can totally get along with me. There will definitely be no disputes between mother and daughter-in-law, don't worry. It was probably like this, a matchmaker with a disgusting smile. Luoqiu, hurry up, come here. Luoqiu finally walked in front of Ren Xiling. Ren Xiling quickly took his hand and said, Come on, I'll introduce you to a good friend of mine when I was in college. There was really nothing to say, and he didn't want to leave a good impression to give Ren Xiling some illusion that they could develop. Boss Luo sighed and said, You don't even let go of your own classmate? Ren Xiling was stunned and suddenly reacted. You little brat, what nonsense are you thinking? Even if I have the heart, she may not like you. At this time, the woman next to her suddenly lowered the sunglasses on her face. Xiling, this is? I said, I'll let you meet my son. Ren Xiling said proudly, Deng deng. This is my son Luoqiu, what do you think? Handsome, right? Son? I see. He's your husband's son. Tu Jia shook her head and looked at the young man who had been ignored. In fact, she directly pulled Ren Xiling aside to ask for more details. I only knew that you got married suddenly, but I didn't know that it was actually. Tu Jia stopped talking. Ren Xiling said casually, There will always be 1 or 2 people in your life who are worthy of your sacrifice, right? I have nothing to regret or to feel sad about now. I just told you that I just want to work hard and raise my son. Your son is already very old. That's not the same. Ren Xiling said seriously, Raise a child for 100 years, and worry for 99 years. Other people's real mothers can live for 99 years, but I've lost more than 10 years. What a huge loss. Tu Jia was stunned. Then, she laughed and said, Forget it, I know you're not the kind of person who knows how to behave. Or rather, you're still you. Ren Xiling said smilingly, What's wrong with me? But it just so happens that someone wants to hug my son? Do you want to hug him? Tu Jia's face blushed. If it was really a child, there would be no problem. But it was obviously an adult man. She spat, You're already a mother, but you still like to tease people? Be reasonable. I haven't entered my 30s yet. What's wrong with me being naughty and cute? Perhaps it was this kind of explosive personality that attracted him that year. Maybe he even embarked on the path of music under her encouragement? The two of them laughed and talked. Boss Luo didn't have the dissatisfaction of being left alone. Rather, he was looking at the two women who were exposed to the sun with interest because he was under the shade of the tree. Speaking of which, except for the girls who occasionally appeared by Renziling's side and were sold to her, Luocio had never seen Renziling's old friends. Even about her family situation, the only thing he knew was that she was an orphan. She said that because she was an orphan, she hoped to have her own family. The word family was very heavy for Luocio, but this woman finally moved him and made him treat her as a real family. Boss Luo couldn't help recalling that rainy day, although he still couldn't understand why the rain was so suitable for the occasion. That was when his father was buried. From knowing the news of his death to dealing with the funeral, it was basically Renziling who took care of everything. During that time, Luocio basically locked himself in the room. When he was hungry, he ate the food placed outside the door. When he was sleepy, he fell asleep, not knowing whether it was dark or dark. He didn't cry. His father said that a good man bleeds but doesn't cry. When the funeral was over and he said goodbye to all the people who came to offer condolences, Luocio, who felt as if all his strength had been drained, wandered aimlessly on the street. He didn't know where he should go, but he simply and mechanically strode forward. It wasn't a place his father had once taken him to, nor was it a place where he had beautiful memories. It was simply in front of him. But from beginning to end, Renziling followed behind him. He walked through the park, and Renziling also walked through the park. He walked through the footbridge, and she also walked through the footbridge. He stopped by the river, and Renziling also stopped, until he couldn't walk any more and fell to the ground. At that time, Luocio thought that if he fell like this, it would probably be very painful, right? His father said that he would bleed but not cry, so if he could bleed now, it might be good. But the expected pain didn't appear. Renziling hugged him from behind. This hug gave him everything. "Are you tired? I'll take you home, okay?" Luocio agreed. His nose was sour, and he burst into tears in Renziling's arms. "You clearly needed me to take care of you when you were seriously ill." After thinking about it, a warm feeling in his heart made Luocio smile involuntarily. At this time, Renziling took Tujaya's hand and finally came over, saying, "Boy, what are you smiling for?" Luocio shook his head. "Nothing. I've been here. Is it okay now?" Renziling put her hands on her waist. "No. My old friend is here. Can you give me some face?" Luocio sighed, suddenly looking at the woman beside him. "Don't be offended." Renziling gave a start. She was provoked by Luocio's paternalistic tone, and was about to fly into a rage. Unexpectedly, Tujaya burst into laughter. "It doesn't matter, I should get used to it earlier than you." Luocio nodded. "That's good." Tujaya nodded slightly. Renziling couldn't accept it, saying angrily, "F***ck. Why are you two acting like parents meeting each other?" Luocio and the woman whose name he didn't know smiled at each other. "Sister, you're here." At this time, a young woman trotted over, holding Tujaya's hand directly, panting, "Really, I've asked King Kong. He said you told him not to follow you. How can you act so recklessly? What if something happened? These two are?" Tujaya had to look at Renziling. "This is my sister, Tujiaching. She means no harm. She's just nervous about me." "Well, Jiaching, this is my old classmate. We happened to meet here so we can catch up." Tu Jiaching nodded. "Oh, I know. Oh, the director said we can start the filming now." Tujaya nodded. "Xiling, let's have a good meal again in the near future, okay? I need to start the filming now." "Go ahead," Renziling said casually. Tujaya nodded, looking at her sister. "Did you bring the script? I want to read it again." Tu Jiaching hurriedly took out the script from her handbag. They walked, one was watching the dramatic changes while the other was busy. Jiaya's younger sister is so sensible. Alas, if only someone is so sensible, Ren Xiling muttered, waving her hands. Luo Qiu rolled his eyes and said, "Don't try to act cute when you have 30 tickets, okay? F***ck. Luoqiu shook his head. Besides, what you see is not necessarily good. What are you talking about? Why is there a sour smell that can't compare to other kids? Ren Xiling said smilingly. Luoqiu looked at the time. Tu Jia is about to start the filming, don't you need to take photos? I just remembered that I didn't introduce her to you just now. Ren Xiling had just finished her words when she suddenly realized something. Her name is Tu Jiaqing, the director, the script. You have a good observation skill. She shook her head. I didn't intend to report this, but I heard that she came back recently and wanted to meet her on a whim. That's why I came here. Luoqiu nodded. There's a restaurant nearby, we can go to the canteen. Canteen. Then let's go. Ren Xiling was never short of excitement, pushing Luoqiu from behind and running. Let's go. Oh right. How's Jiaya's younger sister? Luoqiu. Boss Luo felt that it might have been better if he hadn't cried in this woman's arms that time. Master, what are you listening to? Yu Yi served the black tea with fruit jam to Luoqiu. Luoqiu took off the earphones, passing them to Yu Yi. Give the world to you, Tu Jia's song. Do you know it? Yu Yi shook her head, but still put on the earphones, closing her eyes and listening quietly. Not long after, the servant girl started to hum the melody softly. Luoqiu took a sip of the black tea. The quiet club became quieter with Yu Ye's hum. The silence was immediately broken the moment the bell rang. Luoqiu put on the mask with Yu Ye's help. Welcome to Trafford's club. But he saw Tu Jiaya's younger sister, Tu Jiaqing. Yen PS1. Give me your recommendation ticket equals. Chapter 49. Genius 1 second. Remember love divided by little? We provide you with wonderful novels to read. No matter who it was, no matter how they came, as long as they could come, no matter what they wanted to do, the club would do it. This was one of the most basic rules of the club. Love Go Little Say W. Tu Jiaqing's appearance made Luoqiu a little surprised, but not too surprised. When he saw her during the day, Luoqiu had a feeling that they might meet again, but he didn't expect it to be on the same day. She should be guided by the expectation in her heart, spontaneously reaching the club's financial backer type. Therefore, when she pushed open the club's door, her face was full of uneasiness. The mask was deliberately worn to deal with this kind of situation. Customer, how can I help you? Boss Luo was the first line that would never change. Where is this place? Why did I come here? I was just on the street. Tu Jiaqing took a step back, as if she was going to rush out of the door. Actually, anyone who came to such a weird place inexplicably and met such a creepy guy wearing a clown mask would normally be on guard. Moreover, such a guy was accompanied by a woman who was so beautiful that she didn't look like a human being. Together with the food, it was easy to give rise to a weird feeling in this place. Customer, you must have hoped to come here, so you came here. Luoqiu waved his hand, like a butler waiting for his master's order. Please sit down. The chair beside the small table that was originally motionless suddenly moved on its own. The friction between the legs of the chair and the wooden floor made a dull and short sound. Tu Jiaqing was startled. She instinctively wanted to push the door open and leave, but she didn't know why. She had a strong curiosity, which made her feel that the chair had a wonderful magic power. When she came back to her senses, she had already sat down. This is a magic shop? Looking at the decoration style of this place, and the guy who seemed to be the boss, as well as the trick of moving the chair, Tu Jiaqing easily led to such a conclusion. Love Go Little Say W. Luoqiu didn't say anything. He just swept his hand across the table in front of Tu Jiaqing, and a pile of black pages appeared. The lowest was 5 and the highest was 1. This was a triangular arrangement. Seeing this magical scene, Tu Jiaqing was more certain of her guess. She was a little irritated today and was not in a good mood. Although this place was strange, this scene aroused her curiosity even more. Tu Jiaqing was puzzled. What's this? A divination card? But it doesn't look like tarot. Customer, please pick one. Luoqiu made an inviting gesture. Tu Jiaqing hesitated for a moment and finally pointed at the black card in the middle of the third row, which was also the center of the entire card pyramid. And then? Tu Jiaqing had already made her choice. When she found that there was no response from the other party, she suddenly felt a little upset. Luoqiu shook his head. You're not ready yet. Tu Jiaqing gave a start. She then saw the man in the clown mask stand up. I can buy anything you want here. You can buy anything you want, no matter what it is. Come back when you're ready. Wait, Tu Jiaqing hurriedly stood up. However, the moment she stood up, everything in front of her blurred suddenly. She saw tall buildings, bright night lights, endless streams of horses and carriages. She was already on the main street. Tu Jiaqing instinctively looked around at the bustling city with people coming and going. She suddenly felt a kind of fear. However, the black card in her hand made Tu Jiaqing even more frightened. Her whole body suddenly quivered, as if her arm was electrocuted. She directly threw the black card on the ground and hurriedly left in the crowd. Luoqiu didn't care about what would happen to Tu Jiaqing after she was sent away. Because the moment this customer was sent away, someone behind opened the door of the club. Love Go Little Say Netwakaluoqiu had an illusion that his business suddenly became popular, but in fact it was just a chain reaction caused by something he had done before. I want to see San Yang. No matter what I have to pay. As long as you can let me see San Yang, I'm willing to die. Before Luoqiu had time to say his opening remarks, the guest who suddenly barged in had directly stated his purpose. It was Su Haud, the infatuated man who had wandered in the world for 500 years. I met Yang Taizi. He told me that as long as I come here, I might be able to find San Yang. I know the woman beside you, so you don't need to hide. Just tell me, what do I have to pay to find San Yang? This man looked more haggard than before. His hair was fluffy, and there was a strange smell on his body as if he hadn't washed for many days. Only his eyes showed unusual firmness from the beginning to the end. Luoqiu pondered for a while. Just to find you San Yang? Yes. Are you sure you don't need to appraise it yourself? Luoqiu suddenly asked. Tell me. Luoqiu nodded. You were a jade craftsman 500 years ago in your previous life, but you died tragically because of a woman. After your death, your feelings for Yu Sanyang turned into obsession, so you could wander for 500 years. Now, even if you know it was a scam, you still want to find Yu Sanyang, right? Su Haud nodded slowly. Luoqiu said, I understand after all, you're still attached to that woman. If you want to find Yu Sanyang, you have to pay all your beautiful memories. Are you willing to do that or not? Su Haud was stunned. What beautiful memories do I have? Those memories brought me nothing but pain. Take them if you want. As long as I can find San Yang and ask her why she did that to me. Let's sign the contract. Luoqiu waved his hand, and an old sheepskin scroll slowly unfolded in front of Su Haud. When Su Haud pressed his fingerprint on the sheepskin scroll without hesitation, Luoqiu said slowly, Follow me. The interesting thing was, Yu Sanyang was actually in this city. Successful purchase of Yu Sanyang's location, deducting 10 days of your life. Tu Jiaqing originally planned to go back to her rented apartment, but for some unknown reason, she finally returned to Tu Jiaya's studio. Touching that strange place made her hair stand on end, but there was one thing that made her even more agitated, the reason why she was so agitated to walk aimlessly on the street. Jiaqing, we've listened to the demo you sent, but it doesn't quite meet our requirements. In fact, you don't need to find us. After all, your sister is also, isn't it better for you to find her? Producer, can you listen to it again? I spent a lot of time recording this song. I'm sure it won't be worse than the current songs on the radio. Sorry, I have something else to ask. Well, you can take it back and improve it, maybe it will meet our requirement. By the way, say hello to your sister for me. Why was it like this? Tu Jiaqing went back to the studio absent-mindedly, only to see someone in the studio. Was it her sister? Tu Jiaqing looked at the light at the unlatched door, hesitating for a moment before walking in. She heard Tu Jia's voice, who seemed to be talking to someone. Tu Jiaqing hesitated for a moment, looking inside through the crack of the door. Who was the producer? Tu Jia said with an apologetic face, Harry, sorry to trouble you this time. Harry smiled and said, It's nothing. There are a lot of demos every day. I'm already used to it. But that's your sister, is it okay? Tu Jia shook her head. It's okay, you just need to do as I said, to remove Jiaqing's demo. Harry shrugged. But in fact Jiaqing is very talented. What a pity. Tu Jia shook her head, saying indifferently, Tu Jia is enough for the company. Harry suddenly smiled. We haven't had dinner together for a long time, right? Will you do me the honor? Sorry, I'm a bit tired after a whole day's shooting. Maybe another day. Harry waved his hand, walking towards the door, saying tactfully, Okay, relax, I don't mean anything else, and I won't. I don't want to be fired. Well, don't worry about your sister, I have plenty of excuses to decline. Well? What's wrong? Nothing, maybe a cleaner or a security guard. Harry said casually, Say hello to Mr. Lin for me, okay? Tu Jia took a deep breath, nodding slowly. Tu Jiaqing squatted by the stairs outside the building, her face pale. The conversation between her sister and the producer was extremely sharp. Why did you remove your sister's demo? Tu Jia is enough for the company. Were all the failures due to his elder sister's instigation? For the first time in her life, she felt that the sister she had always been proud of was actually so terrifying. Tu Jiaqing hugged her own body, curling up, feeling a burst of coldness from her heart. A drop of tear slid down her absent-minded face. At this moment, a black card was placed quietly on the ground in front of her. Yen PS1. It's time to post the list of tips. Thanks to cute_shoo Tyrants Joker Little Wolf 118 XBC 000000 for their tip. PS2. Yes. The goalkeeper position is secured this time. Although it's just a classification and I've suffered a little nerve-weakening buff, I'm still very grateful. PS3. Can the weird building in the book review section become crooked or sink? I'm so serious. PS4. So, where's the ticket? Chapter 50. Genius remembers love in 1 second/small? This is a wonderful novel for you to read. The clock on the wall showed that it was 9:30 p.m. But Su Haud had been standing outside the corridor since 9 o'clock p.m., looking at the spacious room inside. The smell of watercolor paint drifted out of the room from time to time, along with some soft music. Until the last student finished the scan of the fake David. He also left at 9:30 p.m. This was an art studio. At this time, in the art room, the art teacher, who was wearing a denim apron and had his hair tied up, exhaled deeply. Looking at the empty art room, he revealed a satisfied smile. She started to tidy up the tools and stools in the studio. Sanyang, Su Haud called her softly. Luoqiu, who had been watching with him for half an hour, suddenly asked, Don't you want to go in? Su Haud hesitated, asking, She doesn't remember me? Luoqiu said indifferently, Do you remember Taiyinzi? Later on, I asked him some questions about the High Jade Emperor Heart Seal Mystic Scripture. Every time you finish a stage, you'll give up a piece of your skin. She won't remember you who made the jade for her, nor will she remember herself who asked you to make the jade for her. Why do you ask? You've been watching for half an hour, don't you have an answer? Su Haud sighed, She's Sanyang, but I don't feel that she's Sanyang. Her eyes don't show that. After saying that, Su Haud gritted his teeth and suddenly strode into the studio. Suddenly, someone broke in. The young art teacher who was called Qin instead of Yu Sanyang asked in surprise, "Sir, I've closed the door, what's the matter?" "Sanyang." Su Haud called her in a low voice. Qin showed a slightly vigilant look. "Sir, who are you looking for?" Although this man wasn't really sloppy, he had a haggard look, which could easily arouse people's vigilance. At least, that was Qin Chuyu's current appearance. Su Haud felt a sharp pain in his heart and his face turned paler. He lowered his head sadly and sat on one side. The drawing board was between him and Qin Chuyu. "Sir, what do you want to do? Can I draw a picture? I can pay for it, as long as it takes to paint a painting." "Sir, I'm going to close now. If you want to learn how to draw, you can come and register tomorrow." However, Su Haud had already picked up a Da Vinci V35 from the tool tray beside him. After dipping it in water, the messy hairs of the brush became sharp like a brush used for drawing eyebrows. Su Haud sat up straight. He closed his eyes and held the paintbrush, motionless. Qin Chuyu had never seen a person so attentive when he was writing. She couldn't help but frown. Should she let the mall's security guard come over to drive this person away, or should she use some other method to drive this person away? While she was pondering, this strange man had already started to make his move. He concentrated on writing and didn't look at her. His eyes were filled with tenderness. Brushing, dyeing, outlining. The brush tip was interspersed with strange colors. Qin Chuyu curiously walked behind Su Haud to take a look, but didn't leave. This wasn't a Western painting style. This person was actually using a watercolor brush as a brush to draw an ink painting. But what he was outlining seemed to be a woman in a palace dress. Her smile was sweet and natural. It was as if the person in the painting was about to jump out of the painting. Qin Chuyu slightly opened her mouth. The woman in the painting seemed to be drawn with her as the model. Su Haud started to inscribe on the canvas. He was also inscribing the words written by the readers. "Sitting facing the yellow flower, I still remember when I'm drunk and wild when I'm awake. Cinnabar is not 1,000-year-old medicine, it's hard to get rid of the frost on the temples in the day. The inscriber behind me is fine, the puppet in front of me is fine." Reminiscing about a fleeting life really becomes a dream. In the end, it has to come to an end. Qin Chuyu seemed to be brought into a wonderful mood by this poem, and was absent-minded all of a sudden. When she came back to her senses, Su Haud had already walked to the door and was about to leave. There were several crumpled banknotes on the stool. It seemed that he was really paying for it. Qin Chuyu gave a start and hurriedly stopped him. "Sir, your painting, it's a gift for you." Su Haud closed the door. Qin Chuyu subconsciously grabbed the banknotes on the stool and rushed out of the studio. But she saw that the corridors on both sides were empty. Where could she see anyone? She went back to the painting and felt that this night was a bit inexplicable, wonderful. She really forgot about me, and forgot about herself as well. In the square outside the shopping mall, Su Haud sat on the edge of the musical fountain that had been turned off. He looked at the dim night sky and suddenly said, "In the past, the sky was full of stars. In the end, it has to come to an end." Luochio sat down beside Su Haud and said softly, "In the end, it has to come to an end. What on earth did I do for 500 years? Su Haud looked at Luochio. Luochio shook his head. How would he know? He didn't have the wisdom that he had accumulated over countless years to say it out loud, okay? But he felt that he couldn't say it out. As the boss of the club, he had to say it like an old monk. "Love makes you tired." Su Haud gave a start. He suddenly laughed out loud. His laughter was sorrowful. He suddenly stood up and opened his hands, letting his body fall back into the fountain and sink into the water. After a long time, Su Haud said indifferently, "It's over. Take what you want. I don't want this painful memory." Luochio nodded and reached out his hand to grab Su Haud. Some light finally turned into a ball of light in Luochio's palm. At the same time, Su Haud suddenly stood up and felt the changes in his body. He felt that something was being removed from his body, and his whole body became very light. What happened to me? What made you float for 500 years was your obsession to see Yu Sanyang again. What's the source of your obsession? It should be your unwillingness to let go of that love. You said it was painful because you loved her deeply. Luo Qiu played with the light ball in his hand and said, "But if you don't have all these beautiful memories, where does your obsession come from? In the end, it has to come to an end. It has to come to an end." Is it? I also. Finally, he closed his eyes. When Su Haud opened his eyes again, he only felt cold all over. It was terrible. Where am I? Who are you? The jade craftsman in his previous life had disappeared. Now, only Su Haud himself was left. He had forgotten this absurd thing. Then there was a problem. Who suddenly fell into the pool? He suddenly saw a sneaky guy with a mask standing in front of him. He had a very bad feeling. Luoqiu said, "It doesn't matter who I am. What's important is, have you forgotten something?" Su Haud frowned and said absent-mindedly, "I seem a little confused." Luoqiu put a few banknotes on the ground. "You forgot that your family is worried about you. They are afraid that you have met with an accident." What? Su Haud suddenly panicked as if he had seen a ghost. The guy in front of him had disappeared. Damn it! He suddenly shivered and recalled the strange words of the family. He subconsciously took out his mobile phone, but the caller ID had already been flooded with calls from his family and friends. He could not help but ask in astonishment, "How long have I not been home?" Yen PS. Have you forgotten that the one you haven't forgotten has already forgotten you? Have you forgotten that those who have always remembered you have been waiting for you? Have you forgotten? Vote. Chapter 51. Genius 1 second. Remember love/go/little? I'll provide you with wonderful novels to read. The sacrifice was successful. You've gained a lifespan of 9 days, 23 hours and 3 minutes. Love go little say, W. Chu. This was the reward given by the stingy altar after the successful sacrifice of the jade maker's longing. But would there be a second next time? Thinking of this strange question, Luoqiu slowly withdrew from the altar. "Master, you've suffered a loss." Miss Servant Girl stood up quickly and turned off the biosound on the counter. Just like a housekeeper who had received the most traditional training, she would stand up to greet her master when he appeared. So would a 300-year-old servant girl. Sort of. Luoqiu didn't care too much about it. It's not bad to kill time. Besides, we'll often waste all kinds of time. So, there's no loss. He walked to the counter and pressed the start button of the biosound, smiling. "I'm not a tyrant. Relax." Yi just smiled and didn't say much. The structure of the counter was actually similar to the bar counter in a bar. In fact, half of the display shelf behind the counter was filled with different brands of drinks, even without a brand. Luoqiu sat in front of the counter facing Yu Yi, curiously listening to the singing from the biosound. "You like Tu Jia's songs?" Yu Yi nodded and then shook her head. Luoqiu played with the oak coaster on the counter while saying, "Is it because I introduced it to you, so you want to know more about it?" Yu Yi said softly, "It's a servant girl's duty to know her master's preferences at all times." Luoqiu suddenly asked, "What do you think of Tu Jia's songs?" Yu Yi said, "Her works were very good when she just debuted. But there are some changes recently. It should be above the standard. If I have to say, it's probably not as lively as before. This is probably the so-called commercialization." Luoqiu tapped the coaster and said, "I suddenly feel like drinking some wine. The cocktail you made last time will do." Love go little say, Netwaku. With that said, Luoqiu reached out to turn off the biosound again. At the same time, the vinyl machine in the corner started running automatically. "Aria on a G string." Luoqiu said, "These are more suitable for you." A gentle smile appeared on Yu Ye's face. ######Lord number 9. I think I already understand modern society. This time, I will definitely not do anything foolish and disappoint Master. In the dark of the night, two old ghosts wandered aimlessly on the street. Black Soul number 9 seemed to be absent-minded. He just responded to Tai Enzi. Did this guy not speak for 500 years? Now that he was released, he planned to say all the things that happened in the past 500 years all at once? He was so long-winded that he was about to explode. At this moment, a young woman ran past the two old men with a face full of panic. While Tai Enzi was still chattering Black Soul No. 9 stopped and looked at the woman who passed by in a hurry. Lord number 9, what's the matter? Black Soul number 9 nodded and said, the one just now is a sugar daddy. What? Black Soul number 9 said indifferently, she's a confused sugar daddy. She should have just come out of the club. She still has the smell of the black card on her. Tainzi was stunned. He sniffed around subconsciously, but there was no smell. Black Soul number 9 really wanted to scold him. Was this guy retarded? But he thought that it would damage his identity, so he followed the woman without saying a word. Soon after, the pale-faced woman sat on the flower trough on the side of the road. She didn't notice that there were two old ghosts beside her. Black Soul number 9 suddenly appeared behind the woman. He stretched out his hand and pressed the back of the woman's head. Lord number 9, what are you doing? Don't talk. I'm looking for the source of her troubles. Black Soul number 9 said indifferently, only when we know what the sugar daddy wants can we, as Black Soul envoys, guide her better. Tainzi was stunned. He followed Black Soul number 9's example and pressed his hand on the back of the woman's head, but he couldn't feel anything. Idiot. My ability is not something you can compare with. Black Soul number 9 scolded angrily, which scared Tainzi and made him step back. Looking at the arrogant look of Black Soul number 9, Tainzi sneered in his heart, I'm just fooling around to gain your trust. Wait until I learn all your skills. Who will be the idiot? Humph. Soon after, Black Soul number 9 took back his hand and pondered. Tainzi asked curiously, Lord number 9, what's the matter? Black Soul number 9 said, this woman is worrying about her sister. It's easy to deal with, just give her a push. She already has a black card, but she hasn't figured out what she wants. Listen, we Black Soul envoys not only guide the sugar daddy to the club, but also try our best to determine what the sugar daddy wants before he goes to the club. Tainzi hurriedly nodded and bowed. Lord number 9, what should we do? Black Soul number 9 said indifferently, she knows she can't make full use of her talents and suddenly knows she's been suppressed by her close relatives. She's already resentful and indignant. So we only need to strengthen her resentment and anger. Hatred, jealousy, strong unwillingness and so on are the best catalysts for the sugar daddy's desire. This girl took out. Oh, I know, it's called a smartphone. Motherf ** Ker 2 Jiaching ran for a long distance in one breath before she sat down, gasping for breath and exhausted. She didn't know what she was afraid of, nor what she should do. She took out her phone out of habit. But after taking it out, she opened a software out of habit, looking at those messages in her channel. Jumping little note, Jiajia hasn't uploaded a new work for a long time. Begging for a new work. 3 hours ago. Stupid cute not pig. I heard Jiajia's song from my friend by accident, so I fell in love with it. I like Jiajia's ethereal voice, and I like her lyrics even more. I hope to have more works. Come on. Good, the one downstairs is Stupid X plus 2. 3 hours ago. For the whole night, Tu Jiaching looked at the illuminated screen and read the blog comments one after another. She cried when she felt wronged, but stopped when she saw the support from the netizens. She didn't want others to say, nor did she want others to say, oh, she's Tu Jiaya's sister, no wonder. So she hid it from her sister and everyone else. She registered the name Jiajia secretly, and started to upload her works in a music software. Gradually it became lively. Even if she didn't run it, even if she didn't promote it financially, she still gathered some listeners who liked her songs. Tu Jiaqing believed that one day her songs would be heard by more people. And one day, when people mentioned Tu Jiaqing, they would think of her as a hard-working girl, instead of a girl who relied on her sister's halo to have a smooth road ahead. But tonight, she felt this idea was ridiculous. The conversation between the producer and her sister, that woman was like a nightmare. Lit, stupid X, 10 hours ago. Yeah. I'm just like a fool. Tu Jiaqing couldn't help but smile bitterly, looking at the next message subconsciously. Audio Little Demon. To be honest, the style of the song is very good. It reminds me of Tu Jia's debut a few years ago. But it can be seen that the UP didn't blindly imitate, but added her own innovation. Speaking of Tu Jia, the recent two albums are suspected of piling up, although I'm also a fan of Tu Jia. But to be honest, I don't agree with this kind of commercial operation that only pursues quantity instead of quality. What the hell is 2 albums in half a year? If Tu Jia can sing Jiajia's songs, I personally think the effect will be better. To be honest, Tu Jia's singing is indeed better than Jiajia's. 15 hours ago. Seeing this, a kind of inexplicable anger started to rise in Tu Jiaqing's heart. She suddenly threw down the phone. I won't let that woman sing my songs. Impossible. Why was it impossible? It sounded like the voice in her heart, like her own inner voice. Tu Jiaqing shuddered and stopped. A voice kept emerging in her heart. It reverberated in her brain. Why was it impossible? It was impossible. She treated me like that. Why should I give her my painstakingly written songs? You want your songs to be heard by more people. You want to get everyone's recognition, don't you? I can't do it. I can't do it. Sister's influence is too great. She can deny me with just one sentence. Why was it impossible? As long as you become her, everything is possible. Become sister? Become Tu Jia. As long as you are Tu Jia, your songs and music will be heard by more people. She is famous enough. Even if it's just a trashy commercial song, it can still occupy the chart, right? You know, your sister's songs are not good now. You are better than her, but she has the huge influence that you dream of. If you two are together, it will be sensational. The whole world will be intoxicated by your music. The whole world. Tu Jiaqing was absent-minded for a moment. Gradually, she couldn't see the surroundings clearly. She seemed to have lost her soul. She just kept repeating, the whole world, yen 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 PS1. Thank you to cute_shu shu, I don't like green peppers, Sanshui Siichi, Dog. Fatty Z, Little Wolf 118, Unrestrained Black Man, Rotten Phoenix, Galancal, and other big shots for their tips. PS2. Thank you for voting. There are too many votes, so I can't list them in detail. PS3. There's one more update tonight. PS4. Thank you all. The old ghost who doesn't vote is looking at you. Manual Funny. Chapter 52. Genius remembers love in 1 second divided by little? We provide you with wonderful novels to read. Luocio thought it would be a few days later, but unexpectedly, Tu Jiaqing came to the club again when he planned to go home. Tu Jiaqing's face looked terrible, mainly because the eyeshadow had turned into a nondescript smoky makeup. Luocio asked Yu Yi to pour half a cup of the unfinished cocktail instead of the flower tea that was usually used to entertain guests. Tu Jiaqing kept silent until the brown cocktail was placed in front of her. She suddenly raised the cup and drank it up. Who are you guys? Luocio also asked himself this question. After several transactions, he gradually got the answer, so he said softly, probably not good people, but they can fulfill your wish. Tu Jiaqing looked at Luocio, then at Yu Yi, and then at everything in the club. She suddenly gritted her teeth, taking out a black card from her pocket, saying, I threw it away once, but it appeared in front of me again. I walked away, but it was quietly placed in my pocket again. You guys are not ordinary people. Do you feel better? Luoqiu suddenly asked. Tu Jiaqing gave a start. Since she came in, she had been trembling slightly. Until the alcohol entered her stomach, it seemed to have turned into a warm feeling. She nodded subconsciously. The strange things that happened half a day ago made her feel reverence for the mysterious power hidden in the darkness. However, this place was like a machine that could infinitely magnify one's desire. I want to become my sister. Tu Jia, can I? She set out her thoughts in a trance. Since the customer had said what she wanted to buy, the club's transaction process could officially start. This request made Luoqiu slightly surprised. He tapped the table with his finger, and several patterned cards floated out automatically. The club reserved the right of the customer to estimate the price himself. But it seemed that ordinary people couldn't make a correct estimation. For example, Zhong Luochen, Lu Zigong. Of course, there were also those who knew how to appraise, such as the butterfly monster Pianxian and the Taoist priest Yang Taizi. However, strictly speaking, they were not humans. Naturally, they had treasures that ordinary people did not have, which were enough to compensate for their lives, emotions, and even souls. If the customer didn't say what he was going to exchange for, he could skip the bargaining step. What's this? Tu Jiaqing looked at the patterned cards that appeared out of nowhere nervously. Luoqiu said, each card represents something you can use to return the goods. Customer, you have to know that the things you need can't be measured with money. Naturally, they can't be bought with money. Luoqiu glanced at the patterned cards in front of Tu Jiaqing but didn't open them. This time, he wanted to see if there would be any other result. Tu Jiaqing frowned. Abruptly, she opened the middle piece of paper, on which was written a simple word. Talent. Love go little say. Kushi looked at Luoqiu in confusion. Luoqiu said indifferently, the literal meaning. You can offer your talent as the transaction fee. Of course, you can get what you want. Tu Jiaqing frowned. If I lose my talent, what will happen to me? Luoqiu said, customer, you can understand it yourself. Let's not talk about unnecessary questions, okay? Tu Jiaqing's hands trembled. She let go of the card, saying in panic, I can't lose my talent. She reached out and opened the card next to her. 30 years. This probably meant that she had to pay with her lifespan. 30 years was almost half of an ordinary person's lifespan. Luoqiu looked at the hesitant Tu Jiaqing, saying softly, Tu Jia has spent 8 years since her debut. So the foundation is 8 years. But you don't have the various opportunities that your sister has, and you're not in the same era. Customer, you should have heard of the saying, to become famous early, you should do it early, right? So you need more time to offset the opportunities that don't belong to you. After all, if you become your sister directly, you'll have everything directly. In addition, I also need to earn a little bit. Tu Jiaqing hesitated for a while, opening the other 3 patterned cards respectively. They were Happiness, Soul, 25 years of doing good deed. Luoqiu explained one by one. Happiness doesn't need to be mentioned. You can exchange it with your life's happiness. You won't enjoy love, affection, joy, and so on. As for soul, considering that the goods you need are the type that lasts for a long time, we'll collect the transaction fee before you die. So this is a long-term contract. The last 25 years of doing good deeds. Customer, you need to do good deeds continuously within these 25 years, and you can't do any bad deeds, no matter if it's direct or indirect. Of course, this is also a long-term contract. Tu Jiaqing asked hesitantly. Can't I do it indirectly? What if I do something bad indirectly? Luoqiu said patiently, of course it's equal to breaking the contract, because we'll pay you first. If you break the contract, we'll collect the transaction fee. We'll forcibly take back the goods that belong to you, and deduct a part of the transaction fee depending on the situation, maybe lifespan, maybe talents and so on, to offset the use time. Tu Jiaqing kept silent for a long time, then asked cautiously, If it's a soul, what will happen to me in the end? Customer, that'll be after your lifespan is exhausted. Use my soul to exchange for it. Tu Jiaqing said resolutely. I can't give up my talents because I want to create more works. I need time. I can't lose 30 years. If I lose my happiness at the same time, it's meaningless for me to do all these. Doing good deeds? No matter if it's direct or indirect, the unstable factor is greater. When she said all these in a determined tone, a roll of parchment unfolded in front of her. Tu Jiaqing pressed on the parchment with trembling hands. At this moment, she absent-mindedly. Everything in front of her disappeared like bubbles. She had returned to the luxurious apartment she rented with her sister. In front of the full-body mirror, Tu Jiaqing looked at herself, touching her face in disbelief. She suddenly felt that the world was so strange. Exactly the same, exactly the same. I'm Tu Jia. I'm sister. This is real. Ha 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 ha. In the midst of her laughter, someone knocked on the door. Jiaqing? Is it Jiaqing? Are you back? That was the real Tu Jia. What to do? Tu Jiaqing's eyes suddenly widened. What to do? Even if she completely became her, she still existed. Suddenly, Tu Jiaqing muttered to herself, the company only needs one Tu Jia. What you said is what you said, it's you, it's you. She slowly opened the door to her room. Yin 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 PS1. Second watch is complete. Finished writing. PS2. Dear, it's detected that you still have extra recommendation tickets. Please use them as soon as possible. It's shameful to waste them. Chapter 53. Genius 1 second. Remember love/go/little? We provide you with wonderful novels to read. Before opening the door, Tu Jiaqing suddenly felt lucky. She had hesitated between doing good deeds and losing her soul, but now it seemed that not doing good deeds was the right choice. She couldn't do any evil deeds. But when she became her elder sister, there couldn't be two identical people in the world. Only one could stay. She picked up the lamp on the bedside table. The moment she opened the door, Tu Jiaqing's eyes flashed a trace of ferociousness. She smashed the lamp towards the person in front of her. Tu Jia fell to the ground with a shriek of terror. The lamp was smashed towards her head, breaking her scalp in a split second. But Tu Jiaqing's hand trembled, the lamp fell to the ground. She looked at her trembling hands, her legs suddenly became soft and she fell to the ground. What did she do? What did she see? The one who fell was obviously herself. Not only did she become Tu Jia, even Tu Jia had become herself. They had exchanged identities directly. Perhaps her elder sister hadn't looked at herself in the mirror, or perhaps she hadn't noticed the sudden change. Not knowing how long had passed, Tu Jiaqing, who was sitting on the ground, suddenly raised her eyebrows. She saw that her elder sister, who had fallen to the ground, was showing signs of waking up. Was she only knocked out? Tu Jiaqing heaved a sigh of relief, but the following panic made her tremble again. What would happen after her elder sister woke up? All these, she hurriedly rummaged through the room, finally taking some clothes and tearing them. She tied up Tu Jia, who hadn't fully woken up, blindfolded her eyes and stuffed her mouth. Looking at Tu Jia, who was struggling on the ground, trying to say something but could only make woo-woo sounds, Tu Jiaqing paced back and forth in panic. She didn't know what to do. She suddenly pinched her own face hard, looking at the clothes that didn't fit her at all. This wasn't a simple change of face, but a direct exchange of body with her elder sister? It's your fault, don't blame me. Ren Xiling was holding Luochio's clothes when she suddenly became absent-minded. She furrowed her brows and covered her nose with her clothes. Then, she began to sniff. Something's not right. Why does this kid's clothes smell like perfume? Subeditor Ren was certainly not the kind of person who would do strange things with her stepson's clothes. It was just that when she came back earlier tonight, she found that the clothes that had piled up for a few days had not been washed, so she decided to do her duty as a good mother. Holding the clothes in her hand, Ren Xiling began to sniffle like a puppy as she walked into Luochio's room. Luocio didn't have the habit of using perfume, but the room was filled with this kind of faint fragrance at the same time. It wasn't the scent of cologne that men usually used. The light scent was more like a woman's choice. Renziling sat on the edge of the bed in confusion. The mother and daughter I saw that night shouldn't be. Was it Zhang Qingrui? They were classmates. No, the young lady of Gu Yuzhai didn't use this kind of perfume. Could it be his girlfriend? Renziling immediately narrowed her eyes and felt very happy. She once again breathed in the scent of the perfume attached to the clothes with great effort. It had a very good smell, light and refined, which could capture the female's sense of smell. Renziling felt that she seemed to like this kind of perfume. Well, it seemed that this girl's taste was very good. She was thinking to herself, "What are you doing?" Luocio stood at the door, looking at Renziling holding his undershirt to cover her nose and breathing deeply. Renziling opened her mouth and was stunned, looking at Luocio, who suddenly appeared. When did this guy come back? Why didn't I hear anything? Wait. It was not the time to care about this kind of thing, but the current situation was very bad. Well, let's review the scene again. The young and beautiful adoptive mother, who had lost her husband, took advantage of the fact that her stepson hadn't come back yet and walked into his room. She held his clothes and sniffed them, revealing an intoxicated expression. Damn. She was simply a pervert. But Subeditor Ren was a person who had been through storms and was used to big scenes, so she was able to handle this kind of embarrassing situation, frowning and saying indifferently, "Oh, you are willing to come back? Look at your clothes, how many days have you not washed them? There is a sour smell. What are you looking at?" Renziling stood up and walked to Luocio. "Hurry up and take off your clothes, so that I can wash them clean. So that I don't waste water and electricity. Take it off or not? If not, I will do it myself." "Wait, I will do it myself." Luocio closed the door directly, frowning, pulling his collar subconsciously to sniff. There was no sour smell of sweat? But what would Renziling do here? It was impossible. Luocio shook his head and quickly changed his clothes. When he opened the door, he saw that Renziling was holding 2 suits of different colors. "Try it." The woman raised the 2 suits with joy, as if showing off her proud works. "What are you doing?" "2 days later, accompany me to have a meal," Renziling said with a smile. "Eating with a big star? You don't want to dress too casually in a high-class restaurant, do you? Besides, I'm a big star. Thank me?" Luocio shook his head. "My driver's license hasn't been issued yet. I already got into trouble last time, if it weren't for Uncle Ma. He..." Renziling suddenly opened her eyes wide, angrily pointed at herself and said, "Am I the kind of person who will race after getting drunk?" Luocio thought for a while and gave an affirmative nod. Renziling clenched her fists, calmed down her emotions, and said with gritted teeth, "One sentence, are you going or not?" "Not going. You have to go even if you don't want to." Renziling suddenly sneered, reached out and pushed Luocio to sit on the side of the bed. "Good boy, your wings have hardened, right? You dare not to listen to my words? You don't want to go, right? You don't want to wear it, right? I will let you wear it." Pressing Luocio, Renziling began to put the clothes on Luocio's body carelessly, and there were some bumps. Boss Luo is also a hot-blooded young man, and he felt that it would be terrible if this continued. "Sleep." He softly spat out a word, and the violent sub-editor Ren didn't react at all and fell asleep. Luocio sat up and heaved a sigh of relief. He held his forehead and waved his hand in disgust. Renziling began to slowly float towards her room. Thinking that this woman will definitely flip out when she wakes up tomorrow, Boss Luo had to sigh and said softly, "Yu Yi, come here. Yen P.S. I'm in the 3rd watch, Thumb. Today, I can say loudly and proudly, give me a recommendation ticket and a reward, Thumb." Chapter 54. Genius 1 second. Remember love divided by go divided by little? We provide you with wonderful novels to read. Officer Ma was very agitated at this moment. A pack of 5-star redwood was opened in an hour. Now, he had drawn more than half of the 6th redwood. The whole office was filled with murky air. Officer Ma, who was not only the sharpshooter in the police station, but also the heavy smoker, slammed his palm on the desk. While shaking the mountain-like pile of documents, the young police officer sitting next to him almost jumped up in fright. F***CKU. The young police officer saw Officer Ma scolding and smoking fiercely. He knew what was bothering him. Not to mention the evil cult that was caught halfway, they had been tracking this organ trafficking organization for a long time. Originally, they had caught the local contact and found the doctor responsible for the operation. The case could have broken through to a new stage. It was even possible to follow the vine to the melon and directly destroy this organ trafficking organization. However, the doctor suddenly died in the operating room. At first, they caught the contact, but he knew very little, so there was no need to interrogate him. As for the only killer they caught in the hospital, the guy who was unlucky enough to be knocked unconscious by the flower pot, he committed suicide when the caretaker wasn't paying attention. Yes, another one committed suicide. Including the psychic master, it was the second one. 2 important figures in 2 major cases committed suicide consecutively. It was imaginable how big of a psychological shadow Officer Ma was at this moment. Not only that, the corpse of the psychic master who was sent to the morgue also disappeared last night. It disappeared from the morgue without anyone noticing. Even the surveillance video didn't show any trace. This was the old man who had been guarding the morgue for decades. He was so scared that he was sent to the hospital and almost died. F***CKU. Officer Ma put out the cigarette in his hand and stood up. I'll go out for a while. Love go little say W. He rushed towards the door in large strides, but stopped when he opened the door. You go and arrange for a few people to watch over my sister-in-law. I suspect that this damned spirit master has accomplices. In addition, he also sent 2 people to the hospital. Didn't Jiang Chu have family members? Let's see if that scumbag will show up again. The young police officer was stunned. He had already been told about the existence of the legendary sister-in-law by the old man in the station. He immediately asked, Sir Ma, should we inform that Miss Rin in advance? It seems to be easier to work this way. Inform my ass. Officer Ma exposed. If you let her know that the soul master's body is missing, I will destroy you. This girl's curiosity was too strong, and she was also a reporter who liked to court death. She would definitely join in. No way. Most importantly, if sister-in-law were to really get involved, she would have 100 ways to make me feel ashamed, and I would be helpless. Then, if the leader asks where you went, what should I say? I told you I'm under a lot of pressure. To reduce the pressure, let's go to the brothel. Bam! The door let out a wailing sound. The young police officer shuddered. He felt that Sir Ma was so down to earth. But if he reported this to the police, he would be in deep trouble. The New Testament of the Bible. John 6 verse 17, Jesus called him the devil. The answer from the golden pupil, on Jihu, made Luoqiu try to understand the meaning of the words hidden in the glass window of the former boss room. It might take a long time. If his life was long enough, Boss Luo would naturally choose to buy this information directly. So now he could only choose to be stingy and spontaneously search for it. First of all, he should properly understand the deeds of this famous traitor. In short, Boss Luo was reading the Bible now. Love go little say, W. Not far away, on an aisle paved with tiles, a mother was pushing a boy in a wheelchair. She was probably trying to let him see the sunlight that he had not seen for a long time. The boy was silent and kept his head down. The mother seemed to be annoyed by the boy's depression. Are you thirsty? The mother asked. The boy was silent, as if he didn't hear it. The mother forced a smile. Oh, look at me, my memory is so bad. I forgot to bring the kettle. Wait here for a moment. The mother left the boy in the shaded pavilion and glanced at the young man who was reading quietly. She hesitated for a moment, but finally walked away. This was a hospital, so there shouldn't be any problem. Besides, even a mother needed to be alone for a while. She didn't go far, but sat down at a place where she could still see the boy. The little boy still didn't move. Boss Luo didn't raise his head. After a while, he suddenly said, "Haven't you recovered and can walk by yourself? Why do you need someone to push you?" The sudden words from a stranger made the boy raise his head, but he just glanced at the stranger and turned his eyes to the other side. "It's none of your business. You'd rather talk to a stranger than your own mother. It's none of your business. So, after you managed to save your life with great difficulty, you plan to live on with a world-weary attitude. It's none of your business." The boy's reaction was a bit agitated. He finally faced the strange stranger. "What do you know, uncle?" Originally, Boss Luo felt that the atmosphere was actually not bad, but the word uncle made him feel uncomfortable. Boss Luo raised his head, which made the boy look away again in a panic. Luoqiu said indifferently, "Actually, you're right. It's none of my business, but I promised someone, so there are some loose ends." With that, Boss Luo continued to read the Bible in his hand. "Do you see the ward over there? Don't peek, it's in my direction." The boy just didn't turn his head. "That boy has a hard life. He's younger than you, but he didn't have a craniotomy. But there was an accident during the operation. He was very likely to die on the spot. But fortunately, the operation was successfully completed by the person who took over." The boy gave a start, turning his head to look at Luoqiu. Boss Luo didn't seem to be interested in the little boy. He turned a new page and said, "But it seems that because of the twists and turns in the middle of the operation, he hasn't woken up since he came out. Well, there's nothing wrong with his body, but he may not wake up for the rest of his life. Do you think she can wake up?" How do I know?" Luoqiu nodded. "That's right. You don't even want to know what will happen tomorrow. How can you care about others? Similarly, you probably won't care if she's also trying very hard to open her eyes, so that she can be like you, and properly size up this world again. What does other people's business have to do with me?" Luoqiu suddenly closed the Bible in his hand, looking at the sleeping girl in the ward. "Right, other people's business has nothing to do with you. What others say has nothing to do with you. What others say about Jiang Chu is good or bad, what does that have to do with you? How do you know? Who are you?" Luoqiu suddenly approached the boy. "Before your father died, he gave her the right to continue living. Although it's not ideal, I think she's trying hard. No matter what your father did, at least at the last moment of his life, what he did proved his attitude towards life." The boy remained silent. Luoqiu put down a cell phone on his lap. The boy gave a start. He was so familiar with this cell phone. On the back of the cell phone there was something he scribbled on it. It was his father's phone number. "Why do you have it?" Luoqiu shook his head, saying, "Although you didn't see him for the last time. But if he knew his attitude towards life, what would he say to you?" The boy stared at Luoqiu blankly. "You'll have a good life." "I think so." Luoqiu turned on the cell phone gently. "Because he loves you." On the screen saver, the familiar face, the familiar but distant smile. The boy lowered his head, gazing at the screen. A drop of tear fell on the screen. He didn't know how much time had passed when he suddenly heard his mother's voice. She sounded a little anxious. "Where's that person?" "I think he—" Except for her and her son, there was no one else in the pavilion. It only took a blink of an eye. Looking at her son's tearful eyes, his mother's heart ached. When she wanted to say something, she saw her son holding the cell phone. "This is, I want to go there and have a look." At this moment, the boy tried to stand up with the help of the wheelchair. He pointed at the ward and said, "Mom." Finally, he spoke. His mother covered her mouth, her eyes red. Yen PS1. Thanks to cute_shu Win Sanliu Little Wolf 118 Awakening from the Dream, Otaku waiting for book, Rain Swift, Tori Torin, and Sanshui Siichi for their tip. Especially the number 1 fan cute_shu shu, the taste is so good. PS2. June's Ticket King Fungus Rebirth also wants to thank you. I hope you can become a huge mushroom that you can be proud of. Thumb. PS3. My eyes are red. Please vote, of course equals. Chapter 55. Genius remembers love in 1 second divided by small? We provide you with wonderful novels to read. Heaven's Shadow Entertainment Limited Company? Qing Yun was reading a document Zhong Luochen gave him. Old Master's health was getting better day by day. Now he was even practicing Tai Chi. If it weren't for his descendants, who said they wanted to observe him for a few more days, he would have gone back to the capital. However, Old Master didn't seem to have any dissatisfaction about staying here. I plan to develop here for the next few years. Zhong Luochen said indifferently, I have a few projects. Heaven's Shadow Entertainment is the biggest and most powerful company in the local area. 2 days ago, their vice president contacted me. Well, can you help me find out more about this company? Would he stay here for the next few years? Qing Yun couldn't help but feel strange. Of course, Old Master would go back to the capital. After all, that was the base of the Zhong family. This time, because of the second young master. Well, there must be some unknown reason that made Old Master recover miraculously. However, people with discerning eyes knew that this was the result of the second young master's willful action. In the end, it could be said that the second young master saved Old Master's life. In the past few days, there had been some discussions in the Zhong family. The second young master had made such a great contribution, so he should have received the Old Master's love and affection. However, why would he stay here, far away from the capital? It didn't make sense. Although he thought so, Qing Yun didn't dare to reveal his thoughts. Instead, he said, Young Master Zhong, I remember that Heaven's Shadow Entertainment is the company signed by the new singer Tu Jia, right? Zhong Luochen nodded. Heaven's Shadow Entertainment seems to be interested in movies. In the cultural industry, movies and television are always the biggest. Qing Yun nodded. Of course, he knew the current situation of the domestic film and television industry. No matter domestic or foreign, under such a system, there was no shortage of direct and indirect general administration. But who cares so much? This kind of private company that wanted to climb up the Zhong family naturally needed to be flattered. Qing Yun's heart became hot. Not to mention the success or failure, the process was quite delicious. What's Taiyinzi doing? The club leader who had just returned to the club frowned. Because there was a computer here, and the person sitting next to the computer was none other than Taiyinzi. At this moment, Taiyinzi was very focused on typing on the keyboard. 2-finger tap. Yu Yi said. He said that he wanted to know more about the outside world, so he used 3 days of service to exchange for a computer. Basically, Yu Yi was the maid who was in charge of the Black Soul envoys. Originally, this should be the responsibility of the club's owner, but probably because the previous owner was too passive, this job was given to Yu Yi for the past 100 years. As for the new boss, he naturally felt that since he had been in charge for 100 years, he would naturally do a better job than him, right? What was there to worry about? Anyway, Yu Ye's loyalty has always been maxed out, of course. The Black Soul envoys served the club for free for various reasons. Because their souls already belonged to the club, if they wanted something, they could only exchange it with their performance. Taiyinzi's service time was 500 years, and he didn't have any performance, so if he wanted something, he could only extend his service time. Of course, his service time was only 500 years, and he was the only one. Luoqiu casually glanced at this time, stunned, and shook his head. Install a firewall, advertisement filter software, and so on. This guy definitely wasn't a pure and simple guy 500 years ago. You really just want to know more about the outside world? Why did you click on so many small advertisements? Damn, you even want to register? So under the aura of the club leader, Taeyinzi didn't dare to say anything, and ran to the second floor of the club with the laptop that he exchanged for 3 days of freedom. The reason why he didn't continue to stay here and surf the net was, when this old guy laughed, he looked like an old pervert, who dared to put him here to affect the style of the club. Luochio sat down leisurely, asking, "What's the situation with the two sisters now?" Yu Yi said, that night, after Tu Jiaqing knocked Tu Jia out, she finally put her into the trunk of the car secretly and sent her to their old house. Not only did she report the process, the loyal maid also had her own understanding. She should be hesitating, or perhaps she hasn't lost her family, so she doesn't know what to do. Present, she should be planning to hide the real Tu Jia for the time being. Luochio looked at Yu Yi curiously, asking, "Do you think Tu Jiaqing will be able to do it in the end?" Yu Yi said softly, "It doesn't matter to me. Yu Yi only cares about when Tu Jiaqing can fulfill her promise." At this moment, the club's bell rang. The one who came was Yang Taizi. This old Taoist looked more spirited than last time. Because he had already shown his face, Luochio didn't dress up this time. He looked more amiable. But Yang Taizi didn't dare to regard this amiability as goodwill. "Have you found the transaction fee to buy the second half of the sutra?" Yang Taizi was in awe of this club. If it wasn't for the need, he wouldn't come here for tea. So this was probably the only reason. The old Taoist didn't know that his ancestor from 500 years ago was typing on a notebook upstairs. He said with a serious face, "No, I'm just here to confirm whether it's still here." Luochio nodded affirmatively. Yang Taizi seemed to let out a sigh of relief. "That's good. Soon, very soon, I'll come back to buy the second half of the sutra. Please don't sell it before then." Luochio's interest was aroused. "Is there any treasure that will be in your hands?" Yang Taizi didn't deny. "I'll come back in 3 days at most." Saying this, Yang Taizi pushed open the door and rushed out. His nervous appearance made Luochio feel like a man-eating devil. But in Yang Taizi's eyes, he was a devil in the club, but now he was reading the Bible. After a while, Yu Yi came to Luochio with a thick hard-cover book, saying softly, "Master, there are 2 transactions due soon, it's time to collect them." Luochio gave a start. Thinking that the club had existed for so many years, he wasn't the only one who had made such transactions. Then, there must be transactions like Tu Jiaqing's, where the soul could only be collected after death. It wouldn't end just because there was a change of boss and the previous transactions had already been made. The club always paid first and collected last. At this time, Luochio took over the account book curiously. Yen PS1. Fortunately, I've used the parallel world card, so it's wide beep. Now I can show up a little. God. PS2. 2 updates tomorrow, 1 chapter in the morning and 1 in the evening. PS3. Today is my uncle's son's wedding. I've been busy all day, please allow me to sleep on my stomach. PS4. Recommendation ticket. Chapter 56. Genius 1 second. Remember love divided by small? We provide you with wonderful novels to read. The old town naturally couldn't be compared to the bustling new town. Looking up, there were no buildings over 7 stories. The tallest building was only a 6-story Tang Tower. However, although it couldn't be compared to the new town, most people who lived here all their lives didn't want to leave. It was probably because compared to the cold and tall stone forest, this place had more human feelings. Nian Bun Shop. Basically, it was full of people every morning. The customers were naturally old neighbors who were familiar with the boss. Inside the shop, it was the relationship between the customers and the boss. Outside the shop, it was the relationship between old friends. Little girl. Add a pot of tea here. An old man who was still full of energy shouted at this time. In front of the hall, a little girl who was bending over to clean up after the customers left quickly responded and hurriedly went to pour tea for the old man. Old Chun, where did you find this little girl? She's hard-working. And she's beautiful. Young girls nowadays, some of the more beautiful ones, look down on these hard work. Wasn't that right? She was around 20 years old. She was fresh like a lotus flower in clear water. When she smiled, people couldn't help but feel relieved. It was a hot morning, but in this old shop without air conditioning, people felt a burst of coolness while sitting. The little girl walked among the customers. Her body was light and graceful, like a butterfly. If I were 30 years younger, I would definitely chase after her. Oh no, 40 years. Me too. Ha 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 ha. A group of old farts. The auntie in the corner suddenly spat. Look at you old farts. If it was my family's jumming, it would be better. This fat woman is trying to promote her son again. What's wrong? The customers began to bicker half seriously and half jokingly. The boss, old Chen, only smiled and buried his head in the dough. At this time, his wife took out a handkerchief and began to wipe old Chen's forehead. At this time, old Chen smiled slightly. Although the bun shop wasn't big, it had been here for decades. As for his wife, she had been wiping sweat for decades. Pianxian, the buns for the first table are packed. Old Chen called the little girl who was pouring tea. Okay. The little girl responded and hurriedly handed over the packed items. At this time, a new customer came into the shop. A fair-skinned youngster, looked at the little girl in surprise. The little girl was also stunned for a moment before she smiled. We meet again. Yeah, I'm a little surprised. Luoqiu nodded. He never thought that he would see this winged butterfly demon here, and from the looks of it, it seemed to be working in this bun shop. The little butterfly demon was dressed very plainly, like a girl from the mountains. However, these did not cover up Agile's beauty. When Boss Luo saw this butterfly demon again, he thought, it seems that when she broke out of her cocoon and was reborn, her transformation was quite successful. You came here specifically to see me? Dance curiously looked at Luoqiu. Because of their coincidental encounter, the butterfly monster had a feeling that Luoqiu had come especially for her. Besides, the club itself was a mysterious place, so it wasn't difficult for him to find out where she was. Luoqiu shook his head. I should be such a regular customer. Dance tilted her head, puzzled. Old Chen shouted, Luoqiu, I haven't seen you for a few days. Did you come all the way here to buy buns? Luoqiu nodded to the boss and his wife, and then looked at the butterfly monster. I lived here when I was a child. Then sit down. The butterfly monster seemed to be relieved, and asked Luoqiu to sit down. Old Chen said, Luoqiu, I'll make buns for you right away, the same as usual. Okay. Luoqiu replied. He sat in the corner, as if he was in his own world. He took out a thick book from his backpack and began to read. When the buns were served, Luoqiu ate one while it was still hot, and then continued to read. It took him more than half an hour to finish the 3 buns. The butterfly monster thought Luoqiu would leave after eating, but she didn't expect that he would just sit there, drinking tea and reading, just like an old man. He's always like this. He'll leave when he wants to. It doesn't matter. Old Chen said to Dance, I watched this kid grow up. He's a very quiet person. Did you really watch him grow up? Dance asked curiously. The club that she knew had always been in the circle of monsters. The butterfly monster didn't understand, so she continued to do her work silently, but she also stole glances at Luoqiu, who was reading quietly. After a while, almost all the customers left. It was almost 10:30 in the morning. Old Chen shouted, Dance, pack up and get ready to close. Okay, but... Dance glanced at Luoqiu, who hadn't left yet, and hesitated. Old Chen chuckled and let Dance continue to work. He took a small teapot and sat down in front of Luoqiu. Uncle, why is there one more person in the shop? Luoqiu suddenly asked. Old Chen laughed and said, Are you talking about Pianxian? She's quite pitiful. When she was packing up that morning, my wife saw her eating the things at the back door, and she was wearing rags. I asked her many things, but she didn't understand a lot of things. I asked her if she had any family, but she said no, and that she didn't remember the past. Old Chun blew on the teapot. I saw that she had nothing. She was natural and innocent, and didn't understand a lot of things. She also lost her memory. I was afraid that she was tricked out of the mountain, so I temporarily took her in. This girl is also diligent, and she didn't want to live here for free, so she came down to help. But coincidentally, this girl's surname is also Luo. Old Chin shook his head and said, Luo dance, this name has a special meaning. A girl in the mountain wouldn't have such a nice name. I'm afraid that she might be the daughter of a big family. Hearing that the butterfly monster used the surname Luo, Luochio subconsciously looked at the butterfly monster who was wiping the glass outside the door. He found that the butterfly monster had been peeping at him. Now that she saw Luochio's eyes, she hurriedly wiped the glass on the other side. She must have heard the conversation here. The monster's hearing was probably not bad. By the way, Luochio, do you think there's any way to help dance? Old Chun smiled and said, You young people's brains work much faster than us old guys. Luochio thought for a while and suddenly said, Sir, can I have a few words with you alone? Old Chun was stunned. At this time, he saw Luochio open the thick book in his hand. In one of the pages there was a black card. Old Chun looked at it and his face suddenly changed slightly. He looked at this old neighbor who grew up with him in disbelief. His lips slightly trembled. You, Luochio said softly, Sir, close the door. Yen PS1. There are 2 chapters in the evening. One chapter is about 8 p.m. As for the other chapter, it's actually not today. It's after midnight, about 05 or 06 minute. PS2. Because it's next Monday, so I'm updating it. PS3. Do you think the name Luo Dance is good? Is it good? Is it good? PS4. I've changed it even if it's not good. So, you can just spam you're the author, you're happy equals. Chapter 57. Genius remembers love in 1 second divided by little? We provide you with wonderful novels to read. Old Chun asked his wife and Luo Dance to help him clean up the shop, and then invited Luochio to his house upstairs. A Love Go Little Say This was a 3-story self-built house. The downstairs was decorated as a shop for business, and the upstairs was naturally inhabited. There were many buildings of this style in the old town. Old Chun was a smoker. At this moment, he took out a small amount of tobacco from his tobacco pipe and put it on the smoking pot. Then, he started to light up the smoking pot. Luochio. Are you Luochio? He was not sure whether this young man was the one he knew, especially after witnessing the miracle of that year. Maybe this was just a person called by that place to remind him, just a facade. Luochio understood Old Chen's idea. What he didn't expect was that Old Chen's name appeared in the account book. This account had to be collected. The contract had been signed and the time was up. Whether he came or not, the result was the same. The only difference was whether he or you would come. It would be better not to answer this kind of question. Luochio was silent for a while and then slowly said, 18 years ago, your wife and your son should have died in a car accident. But you exchanged your soul for the chance of your son's life, and used half of your remaining life to extend your wife's life for 18 years. Old Chin slowly closed his eyes, as if he was recalling those things. After a long time, he slowly sighed. 18 years, white horses pass by, old times, don't mention it. Old Chin honestly looked at Luochio and smiled. I saw it on TV and thought it was interesting, so I read it out. I can't say it by myself. How much time do I have left? Luochio said, 3 days. Old Chin suddenly said, Are you free today? Why don't you have lunch here? Every time I just ask you to eat steamed buns. In fact, my wife's drunken chicken is the best. Luochio nodded gently and said, Okay. It seemed that Elder Chen did not intend to ask about Luochio's background. After learning that there were only 3 days left, he appeared quite calm. He only regarded him as an old neighbor whom he had known for 20 years and watched grow up. "Have a seat. I'm going to buy some groceries," Old Chen said and went downstairs. Luoqiu looked at everything in the house. Suddenly, a butterfly flew in through the gap of the anti-theft net on the balcony and arrived in front of him. The beautiful golden-banded butterfly stopped and turned into Luo Dance in her human form. "Eavesdropping isn't a good thing," Luoqiu suddenly said. Luo Dance said, "It's just that my hearing is better and you didn't deliberately hide it." "Boss, will I really die after 3 days?" Luoqiu nodded. He looked at the old photos hanging on the wall and said, "Time is up, so it's time to end it." Luo Dance blurted out, "Can't it increase your lifespan?" "He's a good man." Luoqiu turned around and looked at the butterfly monster. "Yes, as long as someone is willing to extend his lifespan will naturally be extended. Customer, do you need this?" Luo Dance wanted to say something but stopped. Finally, she became silent. She had just immortalized and had nothing. This thought flashed through her mind, but was stopped by instinct. The monster who had just stepped into a new stage obviously had a good impression of the old couple who showed kindness. But it seemed that she needed to define what she should do, and what she didn't need to do. Luo Dance smiled bitterly and touched her chest. "It's so strange. I obviously have an impulse to help the boss and his wife, but in the end I have a sense of fear." Luoqiu said, "At least you have an impulse." Luo Dance suddenly said, "It's reasonable to say that the boss and his wife have watched you grow up. Don't you feel sad?" Luoqiu also asked himself this question, but he didn't expect that soon a monster would ask him the same question. Boss Luo said softly, "If it weren't for these 18 years, I probably wouldn't even feel sad." Luo Dance shook her head. "It's really hard to understand your human thoughts." Luoqiu also shook his head. "I may know more than you, but I don't think I know more than those old people who have lived for decades. I don't understand what you don't understand." "Why?" Luoqiu said naturally, "Because we are still young. How can we really see through everything?" At this time, some noises came from downstairs. Luoqiu shook his head subconsciously. The young butterfly monster frowned. "It should be the boss's son. This guy came again today." "Do you know him?" Luo Dance shook her head. "I've seen him several times these days. I don't know much about it, but it seems that someone wants to buy the land. The boss's son wants to sell this small building, but the boss doesn't agree. In fact, they have quarreled twice." Luoqiu frowned, saying directly, "Let's go down and have a look." Downstairs, 2 men in their 30s or 40s sat in front of Old Chen's wife. One of them vaguely looked like Old Chen, probably his son. As for the other one, he was dressed in a suit, like a successful white-collar worker. Old Chen's wife sat sideways, not wanting to see them. Old Chen's son said, "Mom, what era is it now? Why don't you and Dad sell this place?" This time they offered a high price. "You can also enjoy a good life after selling it." After all, it was her son. Old Chen's wife said helplessly, "Your dad doesn't agree, so he doesn't agree. Besides, I don't want to sell it." The white-collar man next to her immediately said, "Auntie, actually you don't have to disagree. Now the speed of urban transformation is very fast. Times have changed. Things that are old will pass no matter what. It's actually good for you to sell it now. If you delay and there are more people selling it, you won't be able to sell it at a high price. You will suffer a loss. Auntie and Uncle have worked hard to run this place for decades. If you sell it at a low price when you have no choice but to buy it, I think the two of you will feel the heartache, right?" This, Old Chen's wife was easily swayed. She hesitated and looked at her son. Looking at this man who had been coming over for the past few days, especially the one who was good at talking, she didn't know what to say. "It's you again, you little bastard. Instigating your mother when I'm not around? Get lost. Get lost." Seeing Old Chen suddenly return and grab the broom at the door, looking like an evil door god, Old Chen's son's pupils shrank, not daring to look straight at him. As for the white-collar man who accompanied him to persuade him, he frowned imperceptibly. Boss Luo happened to see a hint of gloominess in his eyes. Old Chun had been making flour for decades. When he exploded, he wasn't much worse than the young people nowadays. Without thinking, he hit the broom at his son's feet. Old Chen's son hurriedly pulled the man next to him and quickly said a few words to think about it carefully. Then, he ran out of the bun restaurant with a gloomy face. Yen PS1. Thank you to cute_shushu, Kevin, Shrank, Shin Xian Yu, Zilu92, Dream is not over, New World's Good Youth, Rotten Phoenix, Lost in Dream, Lovelick, Little Wolf 118, Some Fake Otaku, Too Long to Remember, Brother White Snow, and other tips. PS2. The above is done thanking. Of course, PS2 will continue to ask for recommendation tickets and tip. Facebomb, PS3. Second update today. See you at 12:10 p.m. Chapter 58. Genius remembers love in 1 second/small? We provide you with wonderful novels to read. After driving away his son and the lobbyist of the real estate company, Old Chun sat on the stool and sulked. His wife didn't know how to calm Old Chun down, so she was worried. Luoqiu suddenly asked, "Sir, do you add chili sauce to the drunken chicken?" Old Chun gave a start and subconsciously said, "Add white sesame seeds?" Yes, old lady, little Luoqiu is cooking here today. Hurry up and get some of your best dishes. Okay. The old lady nodded and looked at Luo dance. Little girl, come and help me. The old lady was a very traditional person. She wouldn't say anything when the man was talking. She glanced at Luoqiu gratefully and pulled Luo dance to the kitchen. Old Chun closed the door and began to smoke his pipe. After a while, he looked at Luoqiu and smiled bitterly. "I'm afraid I can't keep this shop." Luoqiu said, "Sir, do you want to sell it?" Old Chin said with emotion, "What do we have in life? We don't bring anything with us when we're born, and we don't bring anything with us when we die. Our children and grandchildren are the greatest wealth. Since I have 2 feet, the old lady will naturally follow me. This shop and this building naturally belong to him. I'm also a selfish person. Can't I give this to my son? Even if he sells it, he can do something to make his life better. It's better than giving it away in a fit of anger and not leaving it to his own family. The older generation is dubious about ghosts and gods, but I know there are ghosts and gods. So I don't want to die without knowing the smell of the grave incense." Old Chin shook his head again, "But the skill of making steamed buns is passed down from our ancestors. I'm afraid it will end in my generation." Old Chun took another puff of his pipe and sighed. Times have changed. Young people have their own ideas. If he doesn't want to learn, I can't force him to. It's just that these few days, I don't want to worry about these things. He looked at Luoqiu, his eyes, which had turned yellow due to age, and said apologetically, "Little Luoqiu, I'm just spitting out these words. It's better to spit it out than to hold it in. It's okay if you've heard it." Luoqiu sat beside Senior Chun and patted the back of his hand. "Grandpa, can I have 2 more bowls of rice today?" "Of course. Too bad you don't drink. Otherwise it would be so cool to get drunk and drink yellow wine." Old Chun laughed and started singing. "In the first month of the first month, if this wine is intoxicating, it will numb the nerves. Some people drink too much and sleep for a long time without waking up. No matter how big the matter is, they will throw it aside. It was a tune for 2 people. Old Chen got drunk at noon. His wife was so busy that she didn't have time to entertain Luoqiu. The old man preferred the younger generation, so his wife grabbed Luoqiu's hand and nagged for a while before sending him out. Luoqiu went out and bought a small bottle of honey from a nearby store. Then he turned the corner and disappeared. But he didn't leave this place immediately. "Where are you going?" Luoqiu appeared in another alley. Most people were resting at noon, so the alley was very quiet and chilly. I just want to walk around and have a look. Luo Dance was startled by Luocchio's sudden appearance. Luocchio said, "Are all monsters so bad at lying?" Luo Dance was stunned and stuck out her small tongue. "How do you know? Human beings are the ancestors of lying." "Love go little say, Wang Xiu, what are you going to do?" Luocchio continued to ask. The incredible aura of the club owner was too powerful. The butterfly monster, who had always been in awe, lowered her head and muttered, "I want to see if there is any way to stop the boss's son from selling the steamed bun restaurant." She plucked up her courage and looked up at Luocchio. I can't let the boss live, so at least let the steamed bun restaurant stay." Suddenly, the sound was a bit loud. Luo Dance was stunned and hurriedly covered her belly. Luocchio couldn't help laughing. "You still have strength, at least do something?" Luo Dance suddenly blushed. Luocchio took out the honey he just bought from his backpack and extended it to Luo Dance. "Although it's artificial, at least it's better than the greasy dishes made by your aunt. Of course, it's not as good as the honey you ate in the mountain." Luo Dance subconsciously took the bottle of honey. As a monster, her strength was naturally much stronger than that of ordinary people. The bottle suddenly burst in Luo Dance's hand, and her hand was full of yellow liquid. Luo Dance stuck out her small tongue without thinking and began to lick the back of her hand, palm, knuckles and fingernails with an intoxicated look. These 2 days, the boss's wife secretly ate all the honey in her house. I dare not tell her." Luo Dance subconsciously told her recent situation. At this moment, she saw Luocchio was staring at her with a strange look. She blushed again and quickly turned around. She first licked her fingers clean and then slowly drank the rest of the honey into her stomach. Boss Luo's strange look was because he thought he would see Luo Dance sticking out a straw from her mouth. Most butterflies ate like this, right? He didn't expect that she licked it. Was she really a butterfly monster? Why did he feel like he was feeding a kitten? Should he change it next time? He heard that butterflies could also drink milk. Should he try it next time? The young butterfly monster was still licking her fingers and turned around. But after mingling in human society for several days, she seemed to have learned what was indecent and quickly hid her hands behind her back. She looked at Luocchio anxiously. I don't have anything to pay for now." Luocchio smiled and said, "A bottle of honey won't cost you anything." Luo Dance smiled sweetly. "Let's go." Luocchio suddenly said, "Let's go and see old Chen's son." Luo Dance looked at Luocchio curiously and said, "Are you going to help the boss?" Luocchio said indifferently, "The bun shop won't be the only one. He used to live here too." With that, Luocchio walked towards the other end of the alley. The young butterfly monster, who didn't think too much, trotted to catch up with him. "Luocchio? Can I call you Luocchio?" "Up to you." Jaya's mouth was pinched open, and she felt that her throat started to moisten quickly. She didn't care so much and gulped down the water. She hadn't drunk water for a long time and was very thirsty. She was suddenly knocked unconscious at home. Before she fainted, she only saw a figure appear in her sister's room. She didn't have time to see clearly who it was. Who are you? What do you want to do with me? Do you want to kidnap me? What happened to my sister? Did you touch her?" Jaya didn't seem to notice that her voice was different from usual, perhaps because her throat was too dry or because she was too frightened. Her eyes, hands, and feet were all tied up. She couldn't see or move. She was terrified. But no matter what she asked, the other party didn't seem to intend to answer. Very soon, Jaya's mouth was sealed with a box sealing tape again. She couldn't speak, but the phone rang at this time. It was the ringtone of her mobile phone. Then, Jaya heard a series of hurried footsteps going away and the sound of the door slamming shut. It was very quiet here and there was a damp and moldy smell. She was afraid that she was temporarily imprisoned somewhere. Yen PS1. So I came on time to ask for a recommendation ticket. Last time I showed off on the new book list of the classified channel. This time I want to go to heaven. Nonsense. I actually plan to go to the front page. PS2. Every chi has the heart to go to the front page, it's not shameful, thumb. Chapter 59. Genius remembers love in 1 second divided by little? We provide you with wonderful novels to read. The caller ID showed that it was Ren Xiling. Tu Jiaqing hesitated for a while, but didn't answer it. But soon, a text message was sent from the same number. It was about the party in the evening. She couldn't help thinking of the couple she met in the university that day. She vaguely remembered that the woman's name was Ren Xiling. She seemed to be her sister's roommate in the university. She was probably more familiar with her sister than the people Tu Jia knew at work. She definitely couldn't meet such a person. Although she and her sister exchanged bodies, she didn't know Ren Xiling at all, so it was inevitable that she would give herself away. Although such a body swap was so perfect, it was better to be careful in the areas that needed to be taken care of. This basement was rented by her sister when she just started her career. Many years later, when her sister became famous, she bought this place and treated it as a place to reminisce. No one would come here. For the time being, let's leave it like this. Thinking about it, Tu Jiaqing took a deep breath. The worst thing had happened and she had done it, so there was nothing to regret. She drove her sister's sports car to Heaven's Shadow Entertainment. Today, she had to attend an event in a large shopping mall. Mr. Chen, if your father keeps such a tough attitude, things will be difficult. It was still in the old city area, but it was in a decent-looking tea house. The white-collar man frowned as he looked at old Chen's son. You have to know that it took me a lot of effort to get you this price. If it were other tea houses, they wouldn't have such a good treatment. Mr. Huang, I know that. Mr. Chen sighed. My father's attitude is really. But today, he's really. I've never seen my father so angry. Why don't we not sell it? Mr. Huang wasn't happy to hear that. Mr. Chen, we had a good discussion. Do you think the price is too low? Mr. Chen shook his head. That's not what I mean. Seeing Mr. Chen wavering, Mr. Huang said at once, Mr. Chen, to be honest, with your current job, there's no problem with your life. But have you thought about the future? Your child is growing up quickly and needs to go to school. As parents, they naturally hoped that their children could receive a good education. However, it wasn't easy to get into a good school. Besides, you don't want your wife to work day and night, right? When you brought her back, you wanted to give her a good life, right? But ask yourself, have you done it? Also, in a few years, you'll have to worry more about your son. Do you know how much it costs to get a wife now? The slightly irritated Mr. Chen forcefully wiped the wrinkled trousers on his thighs, gritted his teeth and said, All right then, I'll try to persuade my father. Well, I'll wait for your good news. Mr. Huang smiled, stood up and said, I still have some things to do in the company. Then, he nodded at old Chen's son and walked to the counter by himself. He took 2 boxes of packed snacks from the waiter and said, It's for that table. He'll pay the bill later. With that, Mr. Huang walked directly to the door. However, before he walked out of the door, he turned back and stole a glance muttering, Do you really think I treat you like God, son of a bitch? However, Mr. Huang was shocked because when he opened the door, there was someone standing at the door. The land acquisition didn't go well, so Mr. Huang was naturally in a bad mood. At this moment, he glanced at the young man in ordinary clothes and snorted, Do you know how to watch where you're going? With the aura of someone who had rolled around in the workplace for more than 10 years, it was easy for him to scare a young man. I have something to talk to you about. Do I know you? Mr. Huang frowned. The more he looked at this young man, the more annoyed he felt. I'm not free. I'm also a property owner nearby. I heard that you've been acquiring land recently? Mr. Huang was about to leave, but when he heard this, he immediately turned around and laughed. How should I address you, little brother? Look at me, when the weather is hot, I feel a little hot. I'm not usually like this. Let's find a place to sit. Okay, This is indeed not the place to talk. Mr. Huang forced a smile. However, old Chen's son was still in the tea-house, so it was not convenient to go in. It seemed that this was an old town, so there were many places to sit. However, the woman beside this young man was really beautiful. Mr. Huang couldn't help but take a few more glances. However, no matter how good the woman was, it couldn't compare to performance and commission. "Little brother, what's your name?" After casually finding an ice room and sitting down, Mr. Huang couldn't wait to ask. Luoqiu was leisurely ordering food at this moment. "Just give me a glass of water, and give her a milk." After Luoqiu finished speaking to the waiter, he handed the menu to Mr. Huang. Mr. Huang, who already had a stomach full of tea, couldn't drink anymore, so he casually ordered a drink. As soon as the waiter left, Luoqiu said, "What company are you from? This young man doesn't seem to be easy to fool." Mr. Huang muttered and quickly took out his card. The name, Huang Qingyin, was written on the card with golden edges. Then there was the company, Everlasting Heart Group. "Speaking of Everlasting Heart Group, you must have heard of it. Our company is one of the top companies in this area." Huang Qingyin gave him a thumbs up, then continued with a smile, "Little brother, what's the address of your house? How big is the area? Do you want me to estimate it for you right now? Mr. Huang, what's your company going to do with this piece of land?" Mr. Huang answered, "Of course it's to build houses." Luoqiu then said, "I see. You'll take our house, demolish it, build a new house and sell it to others. Then, where will we live?" Mr. Huang gave a start, saying subconsciously, "Little brother, we're a big company. We won't take your house for free. You're rich. You can buy another place to live. Think about how convenient it is to live in the new town. There are so many places with good food and drinks. You're young too. You don't want to live here all your life and only see old ladies and old men, right? Little brother, do you want to think about it?" Huang Qingyin felt that if he said too much, it might arouse the disgust of the other party. Therefore, he took a step back in order to advance. "But you'd better hurry up, because there are several residents signing the letter of intent every day. If you're slow, I can't give you a good price. You should understand that when the people around you move away and the house is demolished, you have to leave even if you don't want to." At this time, the waiter served the food, interrupting them. Luo Dance looked at the milk in front of her. Without thinking, she opened the straw and inserted it into the milk carton. A bottle of honey might not have satisfied her. Now, she held the milk carton with both hands and sucked the straw in her mouth. Luoqiu found it interesting, so he smiled. Huang Qingyin wondered if this young man really wanted to have a talk with her. She was just like those aunties strolling in the shopping mall. No matter how the salesperson tried to promote her, she just said, "I'm just looking. Well, I just want to know." Thinking about this, Huang Qingyin was stunned by Luoqiu's words. "Hey, little brother? This guy was so damn fast." He stood up and left without hesitation. Huang Qingyin subconsciously called him twice but didn't ask him to stay. He couldn't help cursing secretly. F***ck. Is he making fun of me? After a while, Huang Qingyin stood up and intended to leave. Unexpectedly, the waiter came up and said, "Sir, would you like to pay the bill?" Huang Qingyin was a little irritated. "How much?" 45 yuan, thank you." "Wait? You charge 45 yuan for a glass of water, a cup of Coke and a box of milk?" Huang Qingyin was not happy at once. No, when that young lady left, she took 3 cartons of milk, Terensu. It's expensive. Damn it. Huang Qingyin was angry. He didn't even know the name of that guy. He ate and took, was he even human? Yen PS1. Today I decided to do a clean PS2, but actually I still want to ask for a ticket. Chapter 60. Genius 1 second. Remember love/go/little? This is a wonderful novel for you to read. Shouldn't I have taken more? Looking at Luo Dance's hesitant face, Luocio really wanted to say, "You've already taken the 3 cartons of milk as if they're treasures." Anyway, the young butterfly monster followed Luocio with 3 cartons of milk in her arms. No one knew what she was afraid of or worried about. Her pace was always half a step slower. No matter how many times Boss Luo changed his pace, it was still the same. "Didn't you say you wanted to do something? Why didn't you say anything just now?" Luocio suddenly asked. Luo Dance gave a start. After a while, she said naturally, "You're here. What else should I say? I don't understand." Luocio gave a start too. Why did she behave like a puppy in front of its master? But it was understandable. In the heart of this young monster, the club was a mysterious and omnipotent place. As the owner of the club, he was already here. She really didn't have much to consider. The Everlasting Heart Group is buying the land, but it hasn't been made public yet. They were walking on the street of the old town. Not only Huang Qingyin, there are many lobbyists of the Everlasting Heart Group nearby. Luo Dance asked curiously, "How do you know?" Luocio said indifferently, "Pay attention to the street. You'll see some people who dress like Huang Qingyin. Big companies have strict rules. Sometimes they require their employees to wear the same uniform." Really? Luo Dance suddenly realized something. She looked around. "There's one here, there's one over there. There's one over there too," Luocio said, "and it's just a letter of intent." Seeing Luocio lost in thought, Luo Dance didn't say anything. She didn't dare to disturb him. When she was still in the mountain, she had heard some rumors about the club from other monsters passing by. Love go little say, could those big monsters that were far beyond her reach had fearful expressions on their faces. Naturally, the thought of reverence was implanted in the motionless little demon's heart. Although he was also curious about the club's owner, but Grandpa Dryad said that the club would eat monsters, especially pink and tender little monsters. The little butterfly monster subconsciously took half a step back. "I'm leaving. You can go back." Luocio turned around and looked at Luo Dance. He seemed to have distanced himself from her, but he didn't say anything. Luo Dance nodded hurriedly and saw Luocio walking towards the side alley. Her hearing was very good, but when Luocio walked into the alley, she could no longer hear his footsteps. This ability to come and go as she pleased made the little monster very envious. However, the weight of the 3 cartons of milk in her arms made her feel very happy. The young butterfly demon, who planned to drink another box tonight and save the other 2 for tomorrow, happily walked towards the bun shop. At this time, Luocio was in an old house in the old town. He only moved away a few years ago. He was forced to leave by Ren Xiling. Sub-editor Ren said that she was busy with work. If she rushed to the company every day, it would be too tiring for her to go back and forth. Her reason made Luocio speechless. But in fact, she just wanted him to change to a new environment. After changing his residence, the distance to the company was almost the same. The last time he came back was to clean before the new year. This time, the house was naturally covered with dust. Luocio opened the window to let in the wind. He picked up a rag and began to wipe some places. In fact, he didn't need to do these things by himself. With only a thought, even the dust would automatically float towards the trash can. But some things still needed to be done by himself. "Master." When Luocio was wiping a trophy in the display cabinet in the living room, Yu Ye's voice came from behind. "It's ready. It can be activated at any time to teleport there." There were 2 accounts due. One was naturally Old Chen. Because he was in the city, Luocio easily found this old man. As for the other one, it was more troublesome abroad. To go abroad by normal means, even the fastest tour group had to wait for the official opening of the tour group. As for applying for a visa, it was troublesome after all. But the club seemed to treat the boss very well in this regard. He only needed 3 hours to exchange for a one-way teleportation. If it was a round trip, it only needed 5 hours. Oh dear. Don't get me wrong, Boss Luo imagined the Taobao style in the back. Although the cold altar occasionally had a sense of existence, it didn't act cute. Such a long-distance round trip only needed 5 hours of lifespan. To be honest, if it was a normal trip, it would naturally take more time. So Luochio chose this convenient shortcut without any pressure. Of course, it was said that the former boss could travel around the world at will without consuming his own lifespan. Boss Luo thought that he would probably fly to the sky one day. The other customer's contract will expire in 5 days. Well, I'll leave in a few days. Luochio thought for a while and said, Okay. Yu Yi nodded. Luochio said again, Wait a moment, after I finish cleaning here, accompany me to a place to have a look. Yu Yi asked, Master, where do you want to go? Luochio smiled. I went there when Jin Zifu was there last time, to the Everlasting Heart Group. Everlasting Heart Square. The super-large square had become one of the city's landmarks since the day it was completed. In the scorching summer, there were usually many people strolling in the square, but there were more people this afternoon. Of course, it was because the superstar singer Tu Jia was going to have a fan meeting here. Sister Xiling, it's almost time. Why hasn't Tu Jia come out yet? The assistant asked impatiently. Since the boss of the newspaper office was also one of Tu Jia's fans, the chief editor said responsibly that they should report more about Tu Jia in the future. Otherwise, it wouldn't be so easy to interview this superstar when she went out to work again. You stay here, I'm going to take a breath of fresh air. Ren Xiling stuffed the Nikon D4S into the assistant's hand. If someone dares to grab the seat, you step on his feet and hit him with your elbow. If he dares to be ruthless, you take off your pants and shout molestation. Sister Xiling, I'm a man. That's more explosive. Ren Xiling hummed, that's more effective. Seeing Ren Xiling squeezing out after finishing her words, the male assistant felt that if he really shouted out, he would be the headline of tomorrow's news. The content was like this. During Tu Jia's fan meeting, a reporter tried to molest his colleague. After finding out that the other party was a man, he didn't stop. Instead, he became more aggressive. What the F***? Yen 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 PS1. Thanks to Tianyun Jinglong, Zilu 92, Wuxin Wuk, Missen and Hi for their tip. PS2. The second update is here. PS3. The third update is tomorrow, so I'm begging for your votes now.